Chapter 1544. The two guys posted their photos on their Facebook pages. Then, they tactfully and loudly said that they'd won after a hard fight. Chen Zhao held his phone and looked at the two old men's Facebook. They all had a lot of followers, especially Stephen, who had millions of followers. The group of people below sang praises. Basically, no one thought about how the two old men managed to drag a 400-kilogram super big fish onto the boat. In the past 2 days, Chen Zhao had been familiarizing himself with how to use celestial power. It wasn't combat. Other than feeling that his body had broken through another limit, his combat style hadn't changed much. However, Chen Zhao realized that there were other uses for celestial power. For example, when he infused his immortal power into the fishing rod and fishing line, the external objects, it made the external objects tougher. As for the supernatural power that Old Turtle had mentioned, Chen Zhao still hadn't seen it. At around 3 in the afternoon, the Hydra stopped. Stephen and Rasfa both put on their diving suits. The three planned to dive for fun. Chen, you're not wearing a diving suit? Chen Zhao took out a portable oxygen tube. It was connected to a nozzle. I'm fine with this. The three went into the water one after another. Stephen and Rasfa both had diving experience. However, this was the ocean, after all, and they were in the deep waters. Chen Zhao couldn't guarantee their absolute safety, so he went with them. As long as they were beside him, he could guarantee their safety. Just then, the 5 tiger generals swam over. Stephen and Rasfa were all frightened when they saw them. Chen Zhao gestured to the two. Then Old Guan swam to Chen Zhao and rubbed his huge head against Chen Zhao. Stephen and Rasfa knew that one of Chen Zhao's hobbies was pets. Moreover, they were already used to the strange pets in Chen Zhao's house. However, they were still frightened when they saw the 5 sharks of different sizes. Among them, Old Guan was the largest. He was more than 6 meters long and looked terrifying. Although they had seen Amon's terrifying body, when they first saw Amon's body, because Amon had the appearance of a killer whale, they didn't feel that it was too scary. No matter how big Amon was, it was just a shock. But sharks were different. Their impression of sharks was that they were scary and bloody. Stephen reached out and touched tiger shark Lao Zhang, who was circling around him. Zhang wagged its tail and swam away from Stephen. Rasfa gathered his courage and approached the other sharks. Chen Zhao made a gesture and grabbed Old Guan's fin. Old Guan turned around and pulled Chen Zhao deeper into the water. Stephen and Rasfa did the same. They pulled Old Zhang and Old Ma's fins and dove deeper into the water with their help. However, even if they had diving equipment, 30 meters was already their limit. For ordinary people like them who had never been trained, if they dived too deep, the first thing to suffer would be their eardrums. However, Chen Zhao controlled the water flow to reduce the water pressure they had to endure. That was why they could dive to a depth of 50 meters. No matter how many times he dived, the underwater world was always fascinating and mysterious. The 5 tiger generals patrolling around gave Stephen and Rasfa a different sense of security. If it weren't for the fact that they didn't have enough oxygen, they wouldn't be willing to leave the seabed. After half an hour of diving, Stephen and Rasfa finally surfaced. When Chen Zhao came up, he tossed a gold coin to each of them. "This is for you." "This is?" "I found it underwater," Chen Zhao said. "It's probably another sunken ship nearby." He'd indeed found it just now, but he wasn't very interested in sunken ships right now. The 2 coins had been soaked in the sea for who knew how many years. Their surfaces were already corroded beyond recognition. There were also things and dirt on them. "Chen, is there really a sunken ship? Let's keep looking. It might be an unknown treasure." "Next time," Chen Zhao said casually. "Let's treat this treasure hunt as an activity between the 3 of us. Let's see what we can find in the end." Sure, Stephen and Rasfa weren't actually interested in the treasure. They were more interested in the exploration and search process. After all 3 of them had more than $1 billion in wealth. Even if they found an ancient sunken ship, it would only be a few $1,000,000. Most deep-sea salvage companies in the world were already very lucky to find and salvage a sunken ship worth a few $1,000,000 each year. Stephen and Rasfa were still very excited when they returned to the boat. They kept planning what to do next. At night, The three ate sashimi and drank beer, enjoying the night at sea. The dazzling stars made one's imagination run wild. A car was stopped outside the supernatural organization's headquarters. When Kasig looked at the old man in front of her. "Stop. Who are you?" Aduz knocked on the car in front of him with his baton. When Kasig got out of the car and looked Aduz up and down, he didn't have any magic. A normal person? When Kasig was suspicious. Or could it be that she couldn't see through him? Or was she in the wrong place? When Kasig couldn't be sure. After all, she'd spent a lot of effort to find the supernatural organization. She wasn't sure who the person who'd given her the information was either. He'd only given her a large area to look for. When Kasig had looked around for a few days before finding this place. "I'm looking for Mr. Chun. I'm his friend." "You're our president's friend?" Aduz didn't hide his suspicion at all. He picked up the walkie-talkie and changed the channel. "Hello, Mr. West. Someone here says he's looking for the president." When Kasig was delighted. It seemed like she hadn't found the wrong place. This was the place. A while later, West walked out. Seeing When Kasig, he studied her. "Hi, how are you related to our president?" "Friend. Since you're a friend, you should have our president's number, right?" West didn't believe When Kasig just because of her words. "I met him during the Turin ghost ship operation on Arma Island." When Kasig said, "I don't have his number." "Oh, why are you looking for our president?" "Business. More accurately, I want to cooperate." When Kasig said, "Can you tell me what kind of cooperation it is?" When Kasig looked at West. "I want to ask your president to help me complete 3 missions from the Scarlet Church." "Miss, I'm afraid you're in the wrong place. Our president won't take them." Chapter 1545. Wang Sieg furrowed her brows. "Mr. Chin won't take it?" "Of course, we're not mercenaries," West said. Disappointment appeared on Wang Sieg's face. This was her last resort. Just then, Jalanesh saw Wang Sieg at the door. She walked over. "Miss Wank, why are you here?" Jalanesh and Wank weren't close, but they'd at least met on Hydra. "I'm here for Mr. Chan." "President? What's up?" "Because of the durian operation on Omar Island, the organization suffered heavy losses, so the elders in the organization asked me to complete 3 missions issued by the Scarlet Church. I borrowed $200 million from my teacher. I hope you can help, Mr. Chan." West's expression suddenly turned serious. "The president has been busy recently. He can't accept your request, but the others in the organization are free. We can totally accept it." "Wait, sir, you just said you're not mercenaries." "We're not mercenaries, but we're willing to help others. Plus, you're our president's friend. How can we do nothing?" West said very righteously and seriously. Wang Sieg looked at West's expression. She really didn't have much confidence in him. "Apart from Mr. Chun, does anyone else in the organization have the ability to complete the mission?" "Of course. Our president is powerful, but we're not weak either. Right, Jalanesh?" "Miss Wank, why don't we talk inside?" West warmly invited Wang Sieg into the organization. Wang Sieg saw the ghost floating over. The ghost brought her a cup of coffee. When Kasig was a little surprised. There were very few organizations that used evil spirits or spirits for chores nowadays. But she also realized that there were ordinary people in the supernatural organization. "Miss Wank, you said that if we help you complete 3 missions from the Scarlet Church, you'll pay $200 million, right?" "Yes," Wank Sieg said hesitantly. "But are you sure that other than Mr. Chun, your organization has the ability to complete the mission?" "Of course. Our president is like a nuclear weapon. Under normal circumstances, he won't make a move. However, when he does, it'll be a piece of cake. Most of the time, we're the ones who accept the missions and commissions," West said. "Can you show it to me?" Wank Sieg asked. "Wait a moment," West said. "Call Gaia over." Not long after, Gaia arrived. "West, did you call me?" "Yes, this is Miss Wanko. She has a mission for us, but she has doubts about the strength of our association, so she hopes that you can show us." Gaia glanced at Wank Sieg, and Wank Sieg was also looking at Gaia. From Gaia's body, she felt a surging and scorching magic power. Unlike Chen Zhao, when Kasig only felt danger when she interacted with Chen Zhao. Gaia, on the other hand, was completely exposed. There is no doubt that this tall woman was very strong. Gaia thought for a moment and asked, "To what extent?" "Use your strongest ability," West said. Since it was a display of martial power, it was only natural that they would display their strongest martial power. "Then let's go to the empty space outside," Gaia said. Wang Xi followed Gaia to the empty space. Gaia took a few steps forward and twisted her shoulders. West snapped his fingers. "Let's begin." Gaia's body suddenly burst into flames. With a whoosh, she turned into a 15-meter-long fire dragon. Wang Xi's expression changed. She took a few steps back in fear. A human's posture and a dragon's posture were two different feelings. "Roar!" Gaia roared at the sky. Ever since Chun Zhao provided her with dragon blood, she had been purifying the dragon blood. During this time, Gaia had been purifying the dragon blood. Her power had also increased greatly. Now, after her transformation, her body length had reached 15 meters, and she could maintain this form for 3 hours. "Miss Wenk, what do you think of Gaia? So powerful." Wang Xi's face was filled with astonishment. In her eyes, Gaia was already a powerful existence that wouldn't lose to Qin Zhao. It seemed that she had underestimated the supernatural organization. She thought that Qin Zhao was the only powerful person in the organization. Now, it seemed that the organization was much more powerful than she'd imagined. Gaia returned to her human form. "Miss Wenk, you don't have any other questions about us accepting this mission, right?" "Of course, no problem." Wang Xi nodded hurriedly. "When can you start the mission? You know that the Scarlet Church's missions are all very difficult. We need to prepare. Can you give me an accurate time?" "We'll do the first mission in a month," Wes said. "What do you think?" Wang Xi thought about it. Indeed, even the powerful supernatural organization wouldn't casually take on such an extremely difficult mission. They definitely needed time to prepare and filter the mission. "Okay, but I hope to go with you," Wang Xi said. Miss Wenk, you know that even we have to do our best for this mission. If there's a big battle, we might not have time to protect you." She had to admit that this was a huge insult to Wang Xi. Since when did she need someone else's protection? She wasn't that weak that needed someone else's protection. "I don't need anyone's protection," Wang Xi said angrily. "I won't be a burden." "Okay, we'll inform you when we move." "Then, should we discuss which mission is the first to be completed?" Wang Xi asked. Not all of the 98 missions issued by the Scarlet Church were of the same difficulty. There are even a few missions that were deemed as impossible to complete. Of course, even if it was a simple mission, it was only relative. None of the quests were truly simple. Until now, apart from the Turin that Chun Zhao had destroyed with violence, none of them had been completed. "No, we don't have time for now," Wes said. "We have other things in the next few days." Chapter 1546. After sending Wang Xi away, a horn sounded from the headquarters. Everyone froze. Then the ground shook. However, the sound of the horn soon stopped. "What's going on?" West looked at the headquarters in shock. The people in the headquarters ran out too. Everyone thought it was an earthquake. A while later, Helis walked out with the death horn in her hand. Her hair was covered in dust. Chun Zhao had given her the death horn. "Halleys, what happened?" West immediately ran forward to ask. "I tried to use the death horn that the president gave me to wake up the demon," Helis said, a bit embarrassed. "Then, the abyss demon woke up and couldn't control it, so it destroyed the 3rd floor of the basement. It doesn't matter if the basement is destroyed, as long as the people are fine." West was famous for being stingy. He had to be calculative when applying for funding for the members, but he was generous now. It was mainly because of Wang Xi's warmth. As long as he succeeded, he would have funding for the next 10 years. "Is it under control now?" West asked. This mission wasn't easy. If Chun Zhao didn't get involved, it would be difficult for the members. Even West didn't dare to say that he could definitely complete it. So, it was better for the members to be as strong as possible. "I put the demon's corpse back to sleep. I can't control it completely." Helis shook her head. "It still has some memories from when it was alive." "Then keep working hard," Wes said. If you have any requests, just tell me. President, that's about it. West told Chun Zhao about Wang Xig's mission. There was no need to hide it from Chun Zhao. One reason was that he couldn't hide it. Moreover, Chun Zhao could also step in and help when necessary. Chun Zhao didn't mind that West had stolen his business. The $200 million mission wasn't a small amount. The association didn't have enough funding right now. If they could get $200 million, the association would have enough funds for the next few years. To be honest, if Wang Xig came to find Chun Zhao, he might not get involved. Chun Zhao didn't like Wang Xig. He still remembered how she'd tricked him last time. However, she'd asked the supernatural organization, so Chun Zhao didn't mind helping. Yes, Chun Zhao thought for a moment. West, don't you think that $200 million for 3 missions isn't her bottom line? West raised his eyebrows. President, what do you mean? I heard Wang Xig talk about the Hunters Guild before. In the 200 to 300 years since its establishment, it said that the legendary Van Helsing was from the Hunters Guild. After hundreds of years of accumulation, who knows how much wealth and foundation they have accumulated? $200 million should be a drop in the bucket for them. Try it. Just say that I'm very dissatisfied with this price and my attitude is very dissatisfied. See if you can raise the price. President, aren't you friend with Miss Wen Ku? Friend? Not really. We just know each other, Chun Zhao said calmly. Chun Zhao would never admit that Wang Xig was his friend. All right, I understand. Hearing that Chun Zhao and Wen Ku Xig were not friends and that Chun Zhao sounded disgusted, West immediately understood. West had accepted it so easily because he thought that Chun Zhao and Wen Ku Xig were friends. With Chun Zhao's personality, if they were friends, Chun Zhao definitely wouldn't be calculative with them. Therefore, West didn't even try to bargain and agreed to Wang Xig's request. Now that Chun Zhao had tacitly agreed, West didn't have to be polite anymore. President, you better come to the association tomorrow. Helis refining of the Abyss Demon has reached a critical stage. I heard that the last stage needs to erase the demon's memory fragments. This needs to awaken the demon, but the awakened demon can't be controlled. It's best if you can be there and help Helis control the situation. Sure, I'll go at noon tomorrow. Back then, Helis had said that it would take at least a year to completely refine and control the demon. But because Chun Zhao had given Death Horn to Helis, it seemed like the progress was much faster. The next day, Chun Zhao arrived at the headquarters. As soon as he got out, Max, who was in charge of the parking lot, floated over. Chun Zhao was stunned to see Ghost Max President. What's wrong? Were you injured recently? Chun Zhao asked. Chun Zhao looked at Max. There seemed to be a crack on his body. The crack was obvious in Chun Zhao's eyes. It could even be considered a serious injury, but Max didn't seem to feel it. Last time, when I went out to drink with the dudes, we met a spiritualist. He hit me with magic. Luckily, a dude stopped him and explained. Max said, I've indeed been feeling uncomfortable these days. I can't gather the aura of death. Stand there and don't move. I'll take a look for you. Max didn't doubt Chun Zhao. After all, Chun Zhao was the supernatural organization's nuclear weapon. There was no use worrying. If Chun Zhao wanted to hurt him, one slap would be enough. Chun Zhao pulled Max's arm and sent his immortal power into Max's body. In an instant, Max let out a moan of pleasure. Chun Zhao saw that his immortal power was repairing the crack on Max's body. It seeped into the crack like glue. Then the crack disappeared. Huh? Chun Zhao didn't expect his immortal power to be so effective at repairing the spirit body. Moreover, he seemed to be able to see the damage of the spirit body. He didn't have this ability in the past. Was this the so-called divine power? Chun Zhao wasn't sure. It was a unique divine power. Or could it be that everyone who possessed celestial power had this ability? Hey, President, my spirit body is complete. My spirit body is very complete, Max exclaimed in surprise. Complete. Chun Zhao was stunned. After death, people would either fall into hell or stay in the human world. However, most spirit bodies that stayed in the human world would turn into evil spirits. This transformation process was quite damaging to the spirit body. Many spirit bodies would only be left with negative emotions. Their rationality and intelligence would all disappear. Most spirit bodies in the organization were powerful. At least they had intelligence, but they had flaws in their emotions too. But didn't Chen Zhao just repair the damage to his spirit body? Chen Zhao was confused. Did he just repair all the damage to his spirit body? Please remember the original domain name of this book, Nine Heavens Godly Emperor Mobile Version. Chapter 1547. Chen Zhao entered the association. Helis had been waiting for a long time. President. Chen Zhao nodded. The demon's corpse is still in the basement, right? I haven't controlled it yet, Helis said. I can't send it into the death dimension. Then I'll go down and bring it up. Let's go to the empty space. Chen Zhao went down to the 3rd floor and was about to put the demon's corpse into his spatial ring. Suddenly, he saw the demon's soul. It was very broken. Chen Zhao rubbed his chin and looked at the soul fragments. 10 minutes later, Helis came down. She'd been waiting for Chen Zhao upstairs. But after 10 minutes, Chen Zhao still didn't go up. President, what's wrong? Can you extract the demon's soul? Chen Zhao asked. I can't. I can only erase its soul. You can ask Lady Pamela about it. Chen Zhao called Pamela over. Pamela, I want the demon's soul. Can you extract it? No problem, Pamela asked. But President, the demon's soul is all fragments. What do you want it for? I've been studying soul magic recently, Chen Zhao said. I need some souls for research. I understand. Pamela didn't ask further. Chen Zhao asked Ruan Faxi for a few soul containers and took out all the demon's soul fragments. If the Abyss demon was still alive, Pamela wouldn't have been able to extract its soul so easily. She might not even be able to defeat it. However, the abyssal demons had already been dead for almost a year. Apart from some instinctive consciousness, it had almost lost all its self-awareness. So Pamela didn't have to spend much effort to pull out all the soul fragments. Then, it was time for Helis. Chen Zhao sent the demon's corpse to the empty space. Although the demon's soul fragments were all empty, it still had instinctive consciousness. As soon as Helis awakened the demon, it immediately attacked everyone around it. It was even more violent than when it was conscious. Chen Zhao picked up the chain he'd prepared. Apart from Chen Zhao, no one else could use it. It was a ship's anchor chain. Each link weighed hundreds of kilograms and was 100 meters long. But in Chen Zhao's hands, the chain was still a bit light. Chen Zhao spun the chain in his hand twice and then threw it out. The chain wrapped around the abyss demon's neck, after which Chen Zhao held it tightly. The abyssal demon frantically struggled. Right now, it was just a moving corpse without any consciousness. Chen Zhao pulled the demon to the ground. Looking at Chen Zhao, Gaia walked up and said, Chen, let me try and see if I can pull it down. Chen Zhao loosened the chains, and the demon immediately climbed up. Gaia quickly caught the chain, but then she was thrown away by the abyssal fiend's immense strength. Gaia still did not let go of the chains. He transformed into a fire dragon the moment he was flung away. However, in terms of size, Gaia was still much smaller than the abyssal fiends. Although the abyssal fiend demon was only left with a shell, its fleshly body was still terrifyingly strong. The others took the initiative to step back and watch Gaia and the abyssal evil demon wrestle. The abyssal fiend's strength was not at its peak, but it was impossible for Gaia to kill it. The value of the corpse was in its completeness. If Gaia burned it with fire, Helis would probably turn against her. After all, Helis had spent 7 to 8 months refining the abyssal fiend. Now that it was almost done, Gaia could only try. However, in terms of strength, Gaia was still weaker than the abyssal fiend in the fire dragon form. Gaia bit the chain and quickly circled around the abyssal fiend. In the end, the abyssal fiend was tied up like a rice dumpling and fell to the ground. Whoosh! Gaia returned to human form. Gaia, you're so strong, Helis said. Gaia smiled bitterly. Strong? She was just bullying the abyssal fiend for its lack of intelligence. If the abyssal fiend was controlled by Helis, its combat ability would definitely soar. Moreover, she could not completely suppress it like Chen Zhao. Helis climbed onto the abyssal fiend's head using the ladder and then drew magic patterns with fluorescent powder. Fluorescent powder was a type of magic powder, similar to magical phosphorus. However, fluorescent powder was made from the skeletons of the dead. Only necromancers would use fluorescent powder. Then a green magic pattern was imprinted on the abyssal fiend's head. The process was rather complicated. Chun Zhao could not understand it at all. Only Ruan Faxi could instinctively understand it. After completing the magic vein patterns, Helis stood on the chest of the abyssal demon and chanted an obscure magic incantation. Chun Zhao and Gaia stood on either side and pulled the two ends of the chain so that the abyssal fiend could not move. Gradually, the abyssal fiend calmed down. Its eyes had turned from pure black to a ghostly green. After completing the incantation, Helith let out a long sigh. President, Gaia let go. I'll try and see if it works. Chun Zhao and Gaia let go. The abyssal fiend was still lying on the ground. Looking at the huge body before her, Helis yelled, "Get up!" The abyssal fiend stood up clumsily. Its eyes flickered with a dark light. "Kneel and reach out your hand." The abyssal fiend knelt before Helis and opened its hand. Helis stood on the abyssal fiend's huge palm. Chun Zhao and Gaia also became vigilant. If the abyssal fiend made any strange movements, they would act immediately. Thankfully, their worries were unnecessary. The abyssal fiend did not do anything to threaten Helis. After that, Helis gave a few more complicated orders. Actually, Helis did not need to say her orders to the abyssal fiend. After confirming that Helis could completely control the abyssal fiend's corpse, everyone heaved a sigh of relief. The abyssal fiend was more than 30 meters tall. Even though it only had physical attacks, it still possessed unparalleled destructive and offensive power. Helis hoped to equip the abyssal fiend with a pair of weapons suitable for its size. Jinkira and Donya Tianchi immediately started arguing again. They both felt that they could design and create weapons suitable for the abyssal fiend. Donya Tianchi's plan was to design a huge samurai sword, while Jinkira felt that a pair of dual swords was more suitable for the abyssal fiend. As for how to choose, it would depend on Helis' choice. Gaia was the person with the most experience in using weapons in the association. She felt that both weapons had their own advantages. She felt that both weapons could be chosen and equipped. Chapter 1548. West, do you understand this? Chun Zhao took out the magic scroll he'd gotten from Blood Mary the other day. What language is this? I don't understand it. West shook his head. Maybe Alice can. Ask her. The most knowledgeable person in the association was Alice. After all, her bloodline contained half of the Witch Society's magic library. A while later, Alice was called to Chun Zhao. Alice, do you understand this magic scroll? Is this ancient Greek? It's my first time seeing it. Alice looked at the magic scroll in shock. If it's your first time seeing it, how do you know it's ancient Greek? Chun Zhao was even more confused. I've read some ancient books that explain the rules of ancient Greek, Alice said. Then can you translate it? Alice shook her head. No one can translate it. Ancient Greek has long been lost. Some archaeologists now should have some understanding of ancient Greek, but most of their research is based on guesses or inferences from modern Greek phrases. But President, I'm afraid only people of that era can understand the ancient Greek on the scroll. Alice shook her head. Chun Zhao believed that there were definitely people in the world who could translate it. For example, Blood Mary the 23rd, who'd given him the magic scroll. However, the bet between them was only about the ownership of the spell. If you want to find her, she'd probably make some requests. Chun Zhao didn't want to beg her. Oh, Alice, do you have any books on the soul? Yes. President, are you going to change to soul magic? I'm suddenly interested. If you do, organize a set for me. I want all the books on the soul, even the basics. Alice slowly closed her palms. A ball of green magic appeared between her palms. The magic spun and sparks flew. Gradually, a brand new magic book appeared in Alice's hands. President, this is the most comprehensive book on the basics of soul magic, Alice said. Tell me when you're done. Chun Zhao accepted the magic book. It looked like it was only a few hundred pages long. So little? Are you sure it's the most comprehensive foundation of soul magic? Guild leader, soul magic is even rarer than necromancy magic. Since ancient times, there hasn't been a single person proficient in soul magic. Hence, very few people research soul magic. As far as I know, there are only a dozen or so books on soul magic. Hearing this, Chen Zhao could not help but feel dazed. A dozen magic books? That was indeed very rare. Compared to other types of magic, it was thousands of times worse. For example, elemental magic, divination magic, voodoo magic, and so on, there were thousands or even tens of thousands of magic books. However, there were only a dozen or so books on soul magic. One could well imagine how rare soul magic was. When he returned home with the magic book, Fei Lai was doing yoga in the yard while reading the Book of Changes. When Fei Lai saw him, the first thing she said was a genteel ancient language. "Dear, you're tainted with evil spirits and your glabella is black. Did you come into contact with something unclean recently?" "Fei Lai, can we speak human language?" Chen Zhao didn't understand at all. A proper foreigner wanted to discuss metaphysics with him. Who could stand that? "Answer me first. Did you come into contact with something unclean?" Chen Zhao rolled his eyes in exasperation. What was so strange about that? He came into contact with unclean things every now and then. Today, he'd come into contact with an abyss demon's corpse. It should be considered unclean, right? "Yes. Master, do you have a way to save me?" "Save my ass." Fei Lai rolled her eyes at Chen Zhao and spoke in pure English. "Master, why aren't you saving me? Why are you scolding me? The evil spirits in your body have dispersed. They can't invade your body at all. Although your glabella is black, it's quite full. The sun and moon are bright. You're clearly impenetrable. I understand why my glabella is black, but where's the midriff? And where's the sun and moon?" Chen Zhao had watched Hong Kong horror movies since he was young. Basically, all of them had a black glabella, so he naturally knew that it was the forehead. However, he really didn't know where the midriff was or what the sun and moon represented. The midriff is the line from the middle of your eyebrows to the tip of your nose. The sun and moon are your left and right eyes. Fei Lai explained patiently. Unless it's plastic surgery, the midriff shouldn't change, right? No. The aura observation technique says that the face is like a mirror and the heart is like the face. As the heart moves, the face changes. If the face changes, the fate can be seen. I don't understand. Chen Zhao shrugged helplessly. Are you even Chinese? Fei Lai was a foreigner, but she was criticizing Chen Zhao's bloodline so righteously. Chen Zhao was speechless. He really wanted to tell Fei Lai that even a proper Chinese wouldn't understand the metaphysics she was talking about. Chen Zhao wondered if he should change subject for Fei Lai. Otherwise, Fei Lai would always learn Eastern metaphysics, and Chen Zhao would be very embarrassed. Should he ask a list for a few Western prophecy books? To put it simply, the face is born from the heart. If the heart changes, the face will change. If the face changes, the fate will change. Whoosh, Chen Zhao exhaled. She finally spoke human words. Then why is the left and right eye called the sun and moon? The aura observation technique says that humans have yin and yang spirits. The yang spirit connects to qi and the yin spirit connects to spells. For example, last time I covered my right eye so I couldn't see Turin. I could see it with my left eye because the right eye can connect to yin qi. You can't say that, Chen Zhao argued. You can see Turin because its yin qi has turned into a physical form. If it were a normal spirit, you wouldn't be able to see it either. That's one reason, Chen Zhao argued. The other reason is that the entrances aren't opened. For spiritualists like you, the entrances of your left and right eyes are already open, so you can see spirits with both eyes. I'm a normal person and my entrances aren't open, so I can't see spirits. Even if it's a materialized spirit like Turin, my left I can only connect to qi and not spells, so I can't see the yin qi of a spirit. Fei Lai's explanation seemed to make some sense. Fei Lai, can you see my qi? Fei Lai thought about it and said, it's a special feeling. I don't see your qi, but your face. I know it's your qi. Chapter 1549. Chen Zhao really didn't know that Fei Lai had actually learned something by herself. After all, Chen Zhao's head hurt just from reading those ancient books. Chen Zhao also knew that Fei Lai had been learning Mandarin by herself when she was learning it. She would occasionally communicate with Chun Zhao or ask him some questions in Chinese. But now, Chun Zhao didn't even dare to say that he could teach Fei Lai. Little Jerlin and Larissa were playing beside the dragon's head. It had become an important entertainment spot for the two girls. Chun Zhao also sat in the dragon's mouth. Leaning against a tooth, he crossed his legs and read the magic book in his hands. The soul was the most mysterious thing in the world. Even gods didn't dare to say that they completely understood the soul. Chun Zhao read the first 2 sentences that were deliberately mystifying. He continued reading. Compared to the West, the East had a much deeper understanding of the soul. Easterners divided the soul into 3 souls and 7 spirits. The 3 souls were fetal light, the second was refreshing spirit, the third was nether essence, and the 7 spirits were dead dog, hidden arrow, sparrow een, thief devouring, non-poison defilement, and smelly lung. The 7 spirits corresponded to joy, anger, sorrow, joy, fear, hate, and desire. The 3 souls corresponded to wisdom, self, and memory. The Western spiritual world believed that the soul was a whole, but reality proved that the soul did indeed have 3 souls and 7 spirits. After death, the soul that lingered in the human world would be damaged to a certain extent. According to research, these souls that lingered in the human world would have certain emotional or personality defects due to the damage to their spiritual bodies. Chun Zhao read the contents of the magic book. The contents of this book seemed to have been written by a foreigner who knew a lot about China. Many of the contents were quotes from China's classics or metaphysics. Chun Zhao realized that the author of the book wasn't just a metaphysical spiritualist. He also liked to verify things from a scientific perspective. The most interesting theory was that the author believed that after death, the fetal light that represented the self would be damaged first. When the fetal light was damaged, there would be a deviation in one's self-awareness. Other than representing self-awareness, the fetal light was also the outermost layer of protection for the soul. Then the refreshing spirit, which represented wisdom, and the nether essence, which represented memory, would also be damaged. The 3 souls were like onions. Once they were peeled off layer by layer, the 7 spirits mixed within would also start to dissipate. However, this process wouldn't last forever. In fact, it wouldn't last long. When the spirit body stabilized, the stronger spirit body would become an evil spirit. If the embryonic light was severely damaged, the spirit body would gradually evaporate like alcohol coming into contact with air. Chun Zhao found this theory interesting. It also mentioned that if the soul was completely shattered, the 7 spirits would dissipate like air. All the soul fragments would only be fragments of the 3 souls. Among them, the white light belonged to the embryo light, the blue light belonged to the refreshing spirit, and the green light belonged to the nether spirit. Chun Zhao took out the soul fragment he had extracted from the abyss demon. There were indeed white, blue, and green soul fragments in these soul containers. Chun Zhao looked at these soul fragments. If he used immortal power to forcefully repair them into a complete soul form, would each soul fragment become a complete and independent soul? Chun Zhao was a bit hesitant. It was like someone chopping off a person's hand and then cloning the person's arm. Give it a try? Chun Zhao picked up a blue soul fragment and poured it into his palm. Chun Zhao chose the blue soul fragment because it belonged to intelligence. It didn't have memories or a self. If Chun Zhao used a white or green soul fragment, the repaired soul would have the abyss demon's memories or a self. It would definitely know his past, so Chun Zhao chose the blue soul fragment. Chun Zhao started to send immortal power into the blue soul fragment. The blue soul fragment started to expand, becoming bigger and bigger and bigger. However, Chun Zhao felt more and more pressure. No, he had to stop. Chun Zhao felt powerless. Chun Zhao didn't think it would be so difficult to repair one of the 3 souls. Repairing Max's soul had been very easy. Why was it so difficult now? Chun Zhao looked at the blue soul in his hand. It was half the size of a person now and had the shape of the abyss demon. However, there were many gaps. As expected, repairing these soul fragments was almost a god's power. Chen Zhao didn't think he could continue. Moreover, the more complete it was, the more difficult it was. The moment Chen Zhao stopped, the blue soul quickly dissipated. Chen Zhao hurriedly sent the blue soul into the container. However, the dissipation didn't stop. It continued. What was going on? The blue soul dissipated until it was the size of the original soul fragment. Only then did it stabilize. Chen Zhao frowned. Was it because it didn't have the protection of fetal light? After recovering his immortal power, Chen Zhao tried again. This time, he needed a white soul fragment and a blue soul fragment together. Then he poured immortal power into it again. It was the same process as last time. Halfway through the repair, the soul had already formed. Chen Zhao's immortal power couldn't continue, so he could only stop. This time, the soul was also dissipating, but it wasn't as big as before. It was probably because of the protection of fetal light. After half of the soul had dissipated, it finally stopped. From its appearance, Chen Zhao could vaguely tell that it was a demon soul. This soul was still in a daze. Occasionally, it would raise its incomplete arm or float in front of Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao looked at the soul before him and thought about what to do with it. Never mind. I'll keep it and study it with Blackie. Thinking this, Chen Zhao put the half-finished soul back into the container. Just then, Chen Zhao's phone rang. It was 4. Chen, are you free right now? I'm busy, Chen Zhao answered without thinking. It's almost dinner. Then I'll call Fei Lai, For said. Okay, why are you calling me? There's a troublesome patient in the hospital. I need your help, For said. Patient? I'm an illegal doctor. Don't forget that you owe me a favor. Who's the patient to you? Why are you calling me to return the favor for this patient? For rarely asked Chen Zhao to help treat patients nowadays. The patient is an important witness, but a month ago, he got into a car accident. Get to the point. The patient has been unconscious for a month. If he continues to be unconscious, someone will be acquitted. What's your relationship with the suspect? Chapter 1550. Chen Zhao was pissed off. Fred forced him to skip dinner. When Chen Zhao arrived at Chantilly Hospital, Fred was having dinner with another man in the hospital's cafeteria. The most important thing was that the man looked handsome and rich. If he were in the movies, he would be like Tony Stark. Seeing Ford grinning from ear to ear at the man's teasing, Chen Zhao got even angrier. Chen Zhao walked up and said in annoyance, "Ford, I rushed here without even eating dinner. You're having so much fun chatting with someone here. Am I disturbing you?" Moscow Priest lifted his head and looked at Chen Zhao in confusion. "Ford, is this your friend? Chen, did you come by plane? I thought you'd need at least an hour." Ford was also confused. The distance between Moon Coast and Chantilly Hospital was at least 80 kilometers. 30 kilometers were in the city. How did Chen Zhao get to the hospital so quickly? That was why Ford had come to the cafeteria to eat first. In fact, it was Chen Zhao's first time driving a sports car. In the past, it was just driving. Today, Chen Zhao was suddenly interested. He sped on the highway in his Porsche 918. Chen Zhao drove for less than 10 minutes on the 50-kilometer highway. With Chen Zhao's superhuman reflexes, driving close to 300 kilometers per hour was nothing. Of course, the price was that Chen Zhao would have to change the tires of his sports car tomorrow. After that, Chen Zhao felt bored. He wouldn't do it again, even if he was beaten to death. No matter how fast the sports car went, it couldn't be faster than Chen Zhao himself. There was no excitement to speak of. To be honest, Chen Zhao had tried it in front of his house. On the ground, Chen Zhao could run as fast as a fighter jet. Even Chen Zhao himself couldn't change the direction of his extreme speed. Unless he ran in a straight line, Chen Zhao would crash into the obstacles on the road. Up until now, Chen Zhao hadn't found any clothes that he could wear while running at full speed. Sometimes, Chen Zhao envied the Hulk's underwear. No matter how big his body became, no matter what kind of attack he suffered, it could still remain intact. Once Chen Zhao unleashed his full speed, the first thing to break would be his clothes. Even Xingyi Hayes couldn't protect his clothes. Recently, he had been thinking about using dragon scales to make underwear. Otherwise, once the battle started, Chen Zhao might give himself a torn clothes buff first. "Mr. Mesco, this is the doctor I introduced to you. Chen Zhao looked at Moscow. For some reason, he felt that Moscow was strange. But he couldn't tell what was strange about it. Moscow Pearl had an extraordinary aura and was handsome. He was tall and slender. Even if he were to appear on the runway, he would still look good. However, Chen Zhao felt that there was something indescribable about Moscow Prior. Temperament? Chen Zhao looked at Mason in confusion. For noticed that Chen Zhao kept staring at Moscow Prior with a strange expression. Mason also felt goosebumps from Chen Zhao's stare. Sir, is there anything on me? Chen Zhao shook his head. You don't seem to have any injuries, so you don't need my treatment. For's face darkened. She'd already told Chen Zhao over the phone that it was a comatose patient from a car accident. Chen Zhao clearly didn't want to help. If For didn't threaten him with a favor, Chen Zhao probably wouldn't move at all. Mr. Mason is the biggest farmer in California, For introduced. He's my sister's boyfriend. He's also a medical professor at UCLA. The two shook hands. Chen Zhao put more strength into his grip. Mason's face reddened, but he didn't make sound. Chen Zhao wasn't purposely making things difficult for Mason. Chen Zhao only wanted to confirm if Mason was a spiritualist. Even if he wasn't an enhancer, his hidden magic would automatically be released when he was attacked. This was an instinctive reaction of the body. But Chen Zhao didn't feel any magic from Moscow Prior. It seemed that he wasn't a spiritualist. For had thought too much. With For's ability, it wasn't that easy to hide magic from him. What's the relationship between the patient and this farmer? Chen Zhao asked. The patient is called Nulong Kirik. He's one of Mr. Mason's farmers, For said. You said that Nulong Kirik is a witness for a case. What's going on? Mr. Chen, you're a doctor, right? Mason furrowed his brows. He felt that Chen Zhao was being too nosy. I like to listen to gossip. Only then will I be in the mood to treat patients. Hearing that, Mason and For both stared at Chen Zhao with darkened expressions. Do you know about the poisoning incident at Daipa Farm half a year ago? For asked. Chen Zhao froze. As a doctor, he obviously knew about it. It was said that 40 or so employees of the farm had a party at night and went to get some corn, potatoes, and sweet potatoes for the party. In the end, more than 30 people got poisoned and 13 died. The incident was huge. As a doctor, Chen Zhao had also received some data. He knew that they'd been poisoned with cyanide, and it was found in the food. Cyanide was extremely poisonous and had a high fatality rate. Most of the time, people died before they could even save them. Then, the police found cyanide on the plants in many fields of Daipa Farm. Cyanide couldn't be used to make pesticides, so it was obvious that someone had purposely poisoned the sprayed pesticides. 3 months ago, Nulong Kirik admitted that he was the poisoner and that the person who ordered him was Lila Gavich, a billionaire and the boss of Beck Chemicals. His main product is cyanide, For said. But a month ago, Nulong Kirik was involved in a tragic car accident while escorting a shipment. He fell into a coma as a result. Was he silenced? Chen Zhao asked. From the current situation, it looks like he was silenced, For said. Chen Zhao looked at For. What does this have to do with you? Chen Zhao couldn't help but think that For had asked him for help because she liked Moscow Pearl. In the list of poison deaths, there's a child that I just cured. He's only 10 years old. He survived throat cancer, but he couldn't survive a conspiracy. Chen Zhao looked at Macy. Why did that patient stand out and expose us? Even if he turns himself in, he'll go to jail for decades. Remember the domain name of this book, 9 Heavens Godly Emperor mobile version. Chapter 1551. One of the victims is Nulong Kirik's family. As a capitalist, Chen Zhao had gradually come to understand how sinister capitalists could be. Even if things seemed clear, it was not certain whether the truth was as everyone saw it. Of course, guesses were just guesses. Even if the truth was different, it had nothing to do with Chen Zhao. He was here to return For's favor. Actually, the sisters were quite similar. After For finished dinner, the three returned to the hospital. In the hospital, Chen Zhao saw someone he was familiar with, Charla. Charla had just anesthetized a patient and walked out of the surgery room. In America, being an anesthetist was the easiest and the highest paid job. Of course, a top-notch anesthetist like Charla sold her skills. One had to know that many anesthetics were harmful to the body, so the control of dosage was also very particular. Moscow looked at Chun Zhao. Chun Zhao seemed to know everyone in the hospital. The doctors and nurses that came and went all greeted him. "Chun, can you hurry? There's still a patient waiting for you. He's been in bed for a month anyway." "There's no hurry," Chun Zhao said nonchalantly. He had no intention of speeding up at all. A female nurse walked over and said some nonsense. When they reached the ICU, Chun Zhao pushed open the door and saw an unconscious patient lying on the bed. After a month, Nulong Kirik was as thin as a stick. He could only rely on injections to maintain his life. This kind of ICU, to maintain vital signs, cost thousands of dollars per day. A normal family couldn't afford it at all. When Chun Zhao saw Nulong Kirik's soul, he was stunned. There was a nail in the head of Nulong Kirik's soul. Clearly, someone had done something to Nulong Kirik's soul. "Who came here?" Chun Zhao asked. "Is there a problem?" For asked confused. "Just asking," Chun Zhao said calmly. "Other than the attending doctor, there should only be the nurses," For said. "Aren't you the attending doctor? It's not like you don't know that I'm in charge of oncology." For rolled her eyes. "I'm not familiar with neurology. Other than the attending doctor and nurses, did anyone else come in?" "Do I count?" Moscow priest took the initiative to speak. "Doesn't he have any other family to visit him?" "Yes, but now all of his relatives want to cut ties with him. Even though he has been unconscious for more than a month, not a single relative has come to visit him." Chun Zhao snickered. This was basically being betrayed by his own people. However, when he thought about it, it made sense. For a bit of money, he did such a thing, causing the deaths of dozens of people and even his own family. It would be strange if such a person was not deserted by his friends and family. "Chun, can you wake him up?" For looked at him. Actually, she wasn't sure if Chun Zhao could wake slave Kirik up again. After all, he was in a vegetative state. Chun Zhao had awakened a vegetative state last time, but that didn't mean he would succeed the second time. "I'll check first," Chun Zhao said. Chun Zhao walked up and checked Nulong's body. Nulong Kirik's body was basically unharmed. Then the problem lay in his soul. Chun Zhao moved his palm to Narang's forehead. Mason, who was standing behind Chun Zhao, suddenly raised an eyebrow. Even though Chun Zhao didn't turn around, he could see Moscow's every movement and expression. He really wasn't a normal person. Chun Zhao had always suspected that Moscow was a spiritualist. For spiritualists, if they sensed something, 99% of it would come true. Now that Chun Zhao confirmed that there was something wrong with Moscow, he was even more certain. As expected, a spiritualist's intuition was never wrong. Chun Zhao pinched the invisible nail between his two fingers. He pulled it lightly, and Nulang's soul moved along with it. "Chun, do you have a solution?" For asked. For go out for a while. "I have something to discuss with Mr. Moscow." "What?" For frowned. What couldn't he say in front of her? "The consultation fee. I don't want you to see my ugly face." Chun Zhao grinned. For glared at him, annoyed. Even if she used a favor to invite Chun Zhao, she couldn't just let him take the consultation fee. "Fine, I'll leave it to you. I'm leaving." For turned and left the ICU. Chun Zhao turned to look at Moscow priest. "Mr. Moscow, you're a spiritualist too, right?" Moscow looked at Chun Zhao and shook his head. "I'm not." "You're not?" "Mr. Moscow, you don't have to hide it from me. I'm indeed not a spiritualist, but I'm also from the spiritual world," Moscow said meaningfully. "What do you mean?" Chun Zhao was confused. Not a spiritualist, but someone from the spiritual world? Whatever. Since he couldn't understand, he wouldn't care. It didn't have much to do with him anyway. "So you stabbed the nail in his forehead?" Chun Zhao asked. "Yes." Moscow nodded. "I did it." "Why? Don't you want him to wake up?" "I did it to save his life," Moscow said. "That car accident almost cost him his life. If I hadn't used a secret technique to lock his soul with a soul-locking nail, he would have died a long time ago," said Moscow Puel. "Then take it off now," Chun Zhao said. "Take it off? Are you sure?" Moscow looked at Chun Zhao hesitantly. "If I take it off, his soul might leave his body and dissipate." "Take it off," Chun Zhao said calmly. "I'm a doctor," Chun Zhao said calmly. "I'm a doctor who knows a lot about the soul. Chun Zhao didn't even need to draft a lie. He'd only read one magic book and hadn't finished it. But in terms of treating soul damage, even Satan might not be better than him. Moscow reached out and took off the soul-locking nail. His technique was very special. At least Chun Zhao could see something, but he couldn't understand it. Moscow clearly didn't use any magic, and it didn't seem to be magic either. Chun Zhao couldn't help but glance at him a few more times. But Chun Zhao didn't have the time to chat with him now. After he pulled the nail out, he immediately went forward and poured his immortal power into Churang Kirik's soul. The effect of immortal power was very good. It immediately stabilized Nulong Kirik's soul and allowed his soul to reunite with his body. Chapter 1552. Mason was also astonished by Chun Zhao's methods. Healing the soul. This wasn't something an ordinary person could do. At least, he'd never heard of anyone who could heal a damaged soul. Magic? Doubt rose in Mason's mind. All right, Chun Zhao stood up. I don't want to know about the inside story. It has nothing to do with me. You understand? Of course, this has nothing to do with you, Mr. Chun. Chun Zhao didn't want to get involved in this. Don't get far involved either. Chun Zhao didn't know if Moscow priest had dragged For into this intentionally or not. Of course, it was also possible that Chun Zhao was overthinking. Mason didn't bother to explain. He wasn't familiar with Chun Zhao, so he didn't think that there was a need to explain. At this moment, Nulong Kilik moved and opened his eyes. Both Chun Zhao and Mason looked at Nurang Kirik. Seeing Mason, Nero's expression changed in an instant. He pulled off the blanket and jumped off the bed, wanting to rush out of the room. Moscow Pule moved like a nimble monkey. He jumped over the bed, and with a tap of his toes, he somersaulted in front of Nulong Kilik to block him. Nero Kirik, where do you think you're going? Mason asked calmly. To be honest, with Nero's current condition, he couldn't run very far. Far heard the commotion and pushed the door open. When he saw Nulong Kirik standing there, he was shocked. Chun, looks like he's already recovered. Chun Zhao shrugged. Far didn't understand the situation. Nero Kirik was curled up in a corner, while Moscow Pule stood in front of him, looking down at him from above. Everyone should be responsible for their own actions. Am I right, Nulong Kirik? Nurang Kirik raised his head and looked at Moscow Pule in fear. Far, how about you treat me to supper? But here, what's wrong? What can I do for you? Miss Far, thank you for your help. I think I should get him discharged. Also, the police will be here soon, Mason said. All right, For could tell that something was wrong, but she didn't pursue the matter further. I hope the culprit will be punished. Of course, you'll see. Chun Zhao and For left the ward. Chun Zhao's mind was still thinking about Moscow Pride's elegant movements. That set of movements looked very ordinary, and even most gymnasts could do it. But to Chun Zhao, it was different. Maybe gymnasts could do it too, but it was impossible for him to be as elegant and casual as Moscow Pule. He didn't look like he was completing a difficult movement. It was more like he was jogging or walking easily. However, Chun Zhao indeed did not feel any magic from Moscow prior. Chun, do you know what's going on? Farron could not hold back his curiosity. Chun Zhao shook his head. I don't know. It has nothing to do with me. I don't want to get involved in some messy scheme. Scheme? You're saying that Mr. Moscow has a scheme? I didn't say that. I'm just reminding you that a rich person like him will have a lot of complicated entanglements, even if it's an ordinary lawsuit. You're rich too, right? For said, looking at Chun Zhao. You're not any less than him. I'm a law-abiding citizen. Huh, you don't even have a medical license. You dare say you're a law-abiding citizen? Don't ask me for help next time, Chun Zhao shouted. That won't do. Just once isn't enough to repay the favor you owe me. I shouldn't have asked you for help in the first place, Chun Zhao said in annoyance. At that moment, the elevator door in front of them opened. Two men wearing windbreakers, gentlemen's hats, and sunglasses walked out. That's weird. It's such a hot day, but someone's wrapped up so tightly, For said. Chun Zhao glanced at the two and chuckled. Maybe they're fans of the Matrix. With that, Chun Zhao pressed the elevator button. When Chun Zhao and For walked out of the building, gunshots came from upstairs. The window of one of the wards flashed twice. Then, a figure broke through the window and fell to the ground. For cried out in surprise and hurriedly ran over. The person who fell down was Mason Pryor. "Mr. Mesco, how are you feeling? Are you okay?" Although Mason fell from the third floor, he seemed to be fine. Fury was written all over Mason's face. He angrily punched the ground with his fist. Damn it, New Lang Kirik is dead. They have spies in the hospital." The moment New Lang Kirik woke up, their gunman came. "Gunner, it's those two from before?" For suddenly understood. Chen Zhao looked at Moscow's expression. It seemed that he was really angry. If he was pretending, it could only be said that his acting skills were really good. "Where are the two gunmen now? Are they still in the hospital?" For asked. "For don't mess around," Chen Zhao said, pulling her back. "You're a doctor, not a cop. They're all dangerous killers. But they're hiding in the hospital. It's possible." As they spoke, the entire hospital building suddenly fell into darkness. They cut off the hospital's power. Chen Zhao shrugged. A while later, the police arrived and the three took statements. More police searched the hospital building to see if the two gunmen were still in the hospital. The good news was that apart from New Lang Kirik, no one else was injured. On the other hand, New Lang Kirik was shot in the head with a single shot. Even Chen Zhao couldn't come back from the dead in such a situation. Chen Zhao and Moscow stood not far away, for was still taking statements. "You found the two gunmen. Why do you think so?" "New Lang Kirik is still in the ward. He hasn't come out yet. How can anyone know?" Chen Zhao raised his doubt. Less than 10 minutes after New Lang Kirik woke up, the two gunmen came. "I can't help but suspect that someone leaked the news. Apart from me, and you, no one else knows that New Lang Kirik woke up. Anyway, it's definitely not the two of us." Moscow's expression was very ugly. Suddenly, he thought of a possibility. Please remember this book's domain name. Nine Heavens Godly Emperor Mobile Version. Chapter 1553. The ICU was monitored 24 hours a day. It was monitored 24 hours a day. Moscow Pool thought of this possibility. Chen Zhao was an outsider, so no matter what he guessed, it had nothing to do with him. For who was recording the police statement had already finished. She wasn't in a good mood. She'd asked Chen Zhao to treat Nunniang Kirik. But Nunniang was cured, but he was dead. For go to Moon Villa and stay there for a few days, Chen Zhao said. You can also take a few days off in the hospital. Although For probably wouldn't get involved in these messy things, Chen Zhao was still worried. No matter what, For was his sister-in-law. No thanks, For rejected Chen Zhao's suggestion. There's a lot of work at the hospital. I don't want to take a break. For rejected Chen Zhao's suggestion. Stay away from that man, Chen Zhao whispered. He's dangerous. However, Moscow Pool seemed to still hear Chen Zhao's voice from more than 20 meters away. He couldn't help but glance at Chen Zhao. For laughed. Chen, you're not jealous, are you? Chen Zhao rolled his eyes. I'm going home. Chen Zhao tried to slow down when he got home. After all, his sports car was too fast when he came. The tires were all worn out. Even the slightest step on the brakes would cause the car to skid. Chen Zhao didn't want his sports car to be damaged. Otherwise, it would cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to repair. However, when he drove out of the city, Chen Zhao felt another car following him. There weren't many cars on this road, and Chen Zhao was driving so slowly. If the car was just passing by, it would have overtaken him already. Chen Zhao still didn't plan on speeding up. He just drove at a steady pace. When he reached the coastal road, the car behind finally overtook him and stopped in front of Chen Zhao's car. Chen Zhao got out of the car, and a few people also got out. One of them was a big boss. He was of medium height and had a big belly. He held a cigar in his hand and wore an expensive suit. However, it still couldn't hide his nouveau riche aura. The fat man swaggered over to Chen Zhao. There were two fully armed bodyguards beside him. Chen Zhao narrowed his eyes at the fat man. He had the same aura as Moscow Pool. No, more accurately, they were similar. After all, Moscow Proust was rather elegant and handsome. In ancient times, he would definitely be an elegant young master. As for the fatty in front of him, he would be a nouveau riche in any era. Of course, it was also possible that he was faking it. Mister, how should I address you? The fatty asked. Do we know each other? I didn't know you before, but it's not too late to get to know you now. The fatty's attitude was quite arrogant. I'm Lila Gavich, the boss of Bell Chemicals. Chen Zhao tilted his head and looked at Lila Gavich. I just want to see what kind of person can save my enemy, Lila Gavich said. I'm a doctor. Lila Gitch waved a hand with the cigar in it. No, no, no. Ordinary doctors can't do that. I personally shattered Nulong Kirik's soul. Although Mesco Pule used the soul-locking nail to temporarily stabilize Nulong Kirik's soul, he still couldn't wake him up. As time passed, Nulong Kirik's soul would dissipate sooner or later. But you managed to restore Nulong Kirik's soul, so you aren't an ordinary doctor. You must be a spiritualist, right? And then? Are you going to take revenge on me for interfering? Haha, no, of course not. He stood before Chun Zhao and patted his shoulder. I'm not that stingy. You're not Moscow Pearl's man. I just admire you. How about it? Come work for me. I can pay you well. Chen Zhao looked at Lila Gavich with a smile. Mr. Lila, do you know that I'm very rich? I think I should be richer than you were before. Lila Gavich froze. How much money do you have? My total assets should be more than $5 billion. Lila Gavich's expression suddenly turned strange. He realized that using a lot of money to bribe Chun Zhao seemed to be completely useless, unless he gave all his assets to Chun Zhao. Never mind. Goodbye. Lila Gavich turned around awkwardly and left decisively. Mr. Lila, I want to know, did you send the 2 killers in the hospital? Lila Gavich looked back at Chun Zhao and nodded. Yes. Do you want to interfere? No. Just satisfy my curiosity. Oh, that female doctor is my sister-in-law. I hope you won't hurt her accidentally. Of course, Lila Gavich replied. Lila Gavich replied, my battle with Mesco Pearl will not involve ordinary people. What about the Daipa farm poisoning incident? You think they're ordinary people? Lila Gavich asked, unconcerned. Chun Zhao was stunned. It seemed that this was more complicated than he'd imagined. However, he didn't know what kind of grudge Lila Gavich and Moscow Pool had. Neither of them were ordinary people. They both had a similar aura. But Chun Zhao still couldn't tell where they came from. Oh, are you interested in doing business with me? No, I'm not interested in your grudges. Chun Zhao rejected directly. I'm not interested. Lila Gavich said that he wanted to do business with him. But Chun Zhao had already done business with him. Thus, he had to be on the opposite side of Moscow Pool. The guy didn't have any good intentions. Plus, Chun Zhao wouldn't easily get involved in unfamiliar industries. What a pity. Lila Gavich's face was filled with disappointment. This time, he really didn't look back. Chief, are we just going to let that Asian go like this? Lila Gavich's subordinates found it strange. Since when is Lila Gavich so nice? Even if Chun Zhao was a spiritualist, it shouldn't be enough to make Lila Gavich retreat, right? Plus, it wasn't like they hadn't fought spiritualists before. Most spiritualists could be killed with one bullet. Since that guy didn't panic at all when facing so many of us, he probably has some trump card, Lila Gavich said seriously. Our main target right now is Moscow Pool. I don't want to make unnecessary enemies. Moscow Pool and his people are our biggest enemies, Lila Gavich said seriously. After a moment of silence, he asked, by the way, have you found the entrance? Chapter 1554. Dayura Farm must be in that area, Lila Gavich's subordinate said with certainty. Lila Gavich's men said with certainty, Daipa Farm isn't big. It shouldn't be hard to find. Not hard. Our people can't even enter Dayura Farm now. You think it's easy? Chief, we can't go on the ground, but we can fly in helicopters. Can they shoot our helicopters down from the sky? Lila Gavich's eyes brightened. That's right. Rent a few more helicopters. Just name a price. We just need to find them. Chief, that guy is accusing you. The trial will start in 3 days. Mesco Pule wants to stall me with this? Dream on. Prepare yourselves for the next few days. Once we find the entrance, we'll charge in. If Mesco Pule and his tribesmen want to start an all-out war, then bring it on. We're not a bunch of white dogs. Lila Gavich's face was ferocious. His eyes were deep and serious. He was tough, but he knew that a war between the two races wouldn't benefit either side. He knew this very well and so did Moscow Priest. Just like before, when he had blocked Chun Zhao's way with an arrogant attitude. Actually, he had come to test Chun Zhao's attitude. After confirming that Chun Zhao wasn't related to Mason and that Chun Zhao wasn't a nobody that could be bullied, he displayed a carefree attitude. Lila Gavich wasn't an idiot. He knew how to judge the situation. Mason returned to Dayura Farm. The seemingly peaceful farm was actually filled with traps and sentries. Mason got out of the car. Two people walked out of the house, both fully armed. One of them was holding a bow and was as tall and slender as Moscow Pule. "Chief." "Yes, let's talk inside," Mason said. Mason wasn't in a good mood. His expression was even more serious. There were more than 10 people in the living room. Some were standing, some were sitting, some were standing. There were men and women, young and old. "Lila Gavich has already shed all pretense of cordiality," Mason said. "It's been going on since we lost more than 30 people." One of the elders glanced at Mason and said with some dissatisfaction, "You're still hoping to use human law to restrain him. Not using human laws? With the weapons in our hands? With bows and arrows? Or with the blood of our people? We are not afraid of death, as long as death has meaning." Mason sighed. "My fellow countrymen, this is no longer the Middle Ages. All of you have your own families. Are you really going to start a war? It's not our choice. It's Lila Gavich and his fallen scum's choice. We don't want war, but we're not afraid of it," a tall man said. "Now is not the time to talk about this. The war is coming." Moscow Pule looked at his clansmen. "Lila Gavich has basically confirmed that the entrance to the cave is here. They will definitely investigate it in 3 days. 3 days. As long as we can hold on for 3 days, Lila Gavich won't be able to do anything." A few days ago, those depraved bastards have been wandering around the area. Mason frowned. "Was there a conflict?" "No, they didn't enter our territory. Send all the underage children out of the farm. Send them to our land." "No, I can already draw my parasite bow. I can fight," a boy said with a red face. "I can help too," another girl said decisively. "Children, I'm not joking. This is a real war," Mason said sternly. Mason said sternly, "I'm not discussing this with you. This war has nothing to do with the children. The children were the future of their clan. No matter how the war ended, it had nothing to do with them." At this moment, the other tribesmen also felt Mason's attitude towards them. They vaguely realized that the situation was more serious than they had imagined. In fact, in the past 300 years, the two clans had fought many times. From individual fights to group conflicts, there were even fights between more than a dozen people. From individual fights to group conflicts, there were even fights between more than a dozen people. Mason wanted to send the children back to their land. This was no longer a conflict or conflict. It was a real war. No one objected to Mason's decision, except for the children at the scene. No one objected to Mason's decision, except for the children at the scene. In a Porsche dealership, 2 underage girls were sitting in a Porsche. "Coward. Mason is a coward. He doesn't deserve to be our leader." Bader roared. "Shut up." Bao-Er's expression was extremely dark. Just then, a sports car drove into the store. Their father, Abrasai, walked up enthusiastically like a businessman. Chun Zhao got out of the car, and Abrasai walked up. "Hello, Mr. Chun. How can I help you?" Chun Zhao was an old customer of this store. He had bought both cars here, as well as the Porsche 918 he had given to the handsome boy. At the same time, the 2 cars were also taken care of and repaired here. Apart from buying cars, Chun Zhao spent tens of thousands of dollars here every month. This was why Abrasai was especially polite to him. "I need to change my tires," Chun Zhao said. "All right, I'll arrange for the repairman to come over and give your car a thorough inspection," Abraki said. "Would you like coffee or tea?" "No need," Chun Zhao said. "I'll just walk around your shop. Please help yourself." Abraki was obviously willing to let Chun Zhao walk around the shop. Perhaps Chun Zhao had his eyes on that car. He did plan to buy a car. The main reason was that his garage was too big, but there were too few cars. Therefore, Chun Zhao planned to put 2 or 3 more in to make up the numbers. Chun Zhao went to Bader and Bao-Er's car. He first walked around the car, then said to the 2 children sitting in the car, "Gentlemen, Is it convenient for me to try this car? What if I don't? Bader looked up at Chen Zhao, his tone rather unfriendly. Bao tugged at Bader and then said to Chen Zhao, "Sorry, sir. My brother is an idiot." "Of course, beautiful lady, I can see that." Chen Zhao glanced at Bader. The kid was clearly in puberty. He was uncharacteristically rebellious toward everything. Hearing Chen Zhao's words, Bader immediately jumped up. "Kid, what did you say?" Chapter 1555. Abraki came up and slapped Bader's head. "Bader, shut up." After scolding Bader, Abraki turned to Chen Zhao. "Mr. Chen, I'm sorry. My son was too rude to you." Chen Zhao chuckled. What else could he do? Scold his son in front of his father? Although Bader was in his rebellious phase, he was still in awe of his father. Standing behind Abraki, he secretly clenched his fist for Chen Zhao. "Mr. Chen, what do you think of this car?" "It's not bad. I don't think I've seen it on the market," Chen Zhao said. "This is a Porsche 917 1960 commemorative edition. The entire design is the same as the 1960 version, but the engine is the latest model. Porsche only produced 3, and this is one of them. If no one buys it, it'll be sold to another store in 3 months." "How much?" Chen Zhao asked. $5,400,000. Abraki looked at Chen Zhao, his eyes shining. "Can I bargain?" Huh." Abraki rubbed his hands awkwardly and looked at Chen Zhao. "Mr. Chen, this is a Porsche car. It doesn't belong to me. I don't have the right to decide the price." "Fine. Help me with the procedures, and then I'll send you to my house." Abraki was overjoyed. He only earned a small amount from this car, but it was almost half of his monthly income. A few beautiful female employees surrounded Chen Zhao, serving him tea and water. One of them had helped Chen Zhao with the procedures when he bought a car. When she saw Chen Zhao, she didn't come over immediately. Instead, she went to the bathroom to touch up her makeup, and then ran over to greet Chen Zhao. Bader looked at Chen Zhao, who was surrounded by a group of beautiful women. He couldn't suppress the anger in his eyes. He was the young master of this store, but the employees here never treated him nicely. Yet an outsider received such attention here. It was said that women were easily jealous, but in fact, men were no less jealous than women. After a while, Abraki walked over to Chen Zhao. "Mr. Chen, the tires are changed. Only the 2 back wheels were changed. The front ones are fine, so they don't need to be changed." Chen Zhao was a big client, but Abraki didn't dare to cheat him of his money. Losing a big customer for such a small amount of money was definitely the stupidest business. Someone like Chen Zhao could buy a $5 million sports car without even blinking. Abraki wouldn't kill the goose that laid the golden eggs. Under the greetings of the female employees, Chen Zhao drove away. But just as he reached the intersection, a figure suddenly rushed out. Chen Zhao slammed on the brakes and heard a scream from the front. Chen Zhao was sure that his car hadn't touched it. He was also sure that the person had jumped in front of his car on purpose. Chen Zhao got out of the car and walked to the front. He looked at Bao on the ground. Just then, Bader rushed out from the side. "Kid, you." Bader grabbed Chen Zhao's collar. "My coat is a Baroness, $9,888. My shirt is a rabbit head, $3,888. I also have a team of lawyers under me that doesn't have any clients yet. My car is also equipped with a driving recorder." Chen Zhao looked calmly at the youth who was a head shorter than him. "Before you do anything, you have to confirm if your father is willing to pay the compensation." Bader wasn't old, but he was still scared by Chen Zhao. The so-called rebellious phase only happened to people close to you. Most youths felt that their families allowed them to be rebellious. That was why they vented their frustrations and unhappiness on their family members. But others wouldn't give in to them, such as Chen Zhao. "If you do anything, I can guarantee that you'll be sent to the juvenile detention center for half a year. You think I'm afraid of you?" Bader still looked aggressive, but his tone had softened. Clearly, he also realized that it wasn't a good idea to work with his sister to blackmail Chen Zhao. "Kid, you should learn to control your emotions." Chen Zhao patted Bader's cheek. Bader was so angry that his face turned red. He gritted his teeth and stared at Chen Zhao. I'm going to kill you. Just because of that, I can let you stay in the juvenile detention center for half a year. Just then, Bao pulled Bader away and smiled sweetly. Sir, I'm really sorry about what happened earlier. We actually just want to play a little joke with you. They didn't say the other half and blackmailed Chen Zhao for some money. Their father had a sizable sports car shop, but they didn't have much pocket money. Their first impression of Chen Zhao was that he was rich. Secondly, they thought that Chen Zhao wouldn't mind spending some money to solve a small problem. Unfortunately, they were still too inexperienced. Just then, a sports car of the same model as Chen Zhao stopped beside the three. A tall, sexy woman wearing sunglasses alighted from a Porsche. Mom. Bao Er's expression froze. The woman came before Chen Zhao. She looked at the furious Bader and then at the panic-stricken Bao Er. She immediately guessed that her child had gotten into trouble again. Sir, may I ask if my two children have offended you in any way? Nothing, just a small misunderstanding. Chen Zhao glanced at the two children, not planning to pursue the matter. After Chen Zhao left, Undine turned to look at the two kids. There was no anger on her face, but Bao Er and Bader could feel the frosty coldness from their mother. I thought that even if I don't send you back to the clan and keep you by your father's side, he'll still be able to discipline you. Undine's tone was extremely cold, and her face was emotionless. But I was wrong. Your father can't control you at all. Their father, Abrak, was just an ordinary person, an ordinary businessman. He didn't know how special his wife and two children were at all. Looks like I have to send you back to the clan land. No, Mom, don't send us back, Bauer yelled. If you send us there, we'll die. We'll definitely die. Once we go in, we'll need at least 3 years to come out. I don't want to spend our adolescence there. Undine's expression returned slightly. She also couldn't bear to send her children to the clan land. If they were sent there, it would mean that they wouldn't see each other again for at least 3 years. Can you promise that you won't cause trouble again? Yes. I promise I won't cause any more trouble. Chapter 1556. Bader still cared about his dignity, but his sister Bao had completely become her mother's puppy. She would do whatever her mother wanted her to do. She would say whatever her mother wanted her to say. Bader was a bit of a male chauvinist, but Bader was actually more afraid of his mother than Bao. Bao had been obedient and clever since she was young. She always showed a sweet mouth to everyone. But Bader had been punished by his mother Undine since he was young. Undine was also having a headache now. If she didn't send the two little bastards to the clan's land, who would watch over them? Moscow Pearl had already ordered them to assemble. A war between the two clans could really break out. And as one of the guarantees of their clan's combat power, Undine couldn't hide at home to watch over the two little guys. But their father couldn't watch over them. Until now, Abrasai still thought that Bauer and Bader were just active and lively. He still didn't know what was so special about Bauer and Bader. In his eyes, they were just kids. Even if you stuffed a gun in their hands, they might not dare to pick it up. Mother, take us to the farm, Bader suddenly said, looking up. You shut up, Undine immediately reprimanded. That wasn't a child's game. It was the real charaba. Even Undine didn't dare to say that her side would definitely win. Not to mention that she had to bring the two brats along. But the two kids' eyes were shining, and they couldn't be stopped. No matter how strict Undine's tone was, it couldn't erase the light in their eyes. In the end, Undine still sighed. She knew that she had compromised. Go and tell your father, Undine said coldly. Bauer and Bader went to their father's shop and told Abrasai that they were going on a trip with their mother. Abrasai thought that they were really going on a trip and repeatedly told them not to cause trouble for Undine. Undine brought the excited Bao and Bader to the farm. Mason was having a discussion with a few elders of his tribe. When they saw the black-faced Undine come in with Bao and Bader, everyone in the front hall was stunned. Undine, why did you bring them here? Didn't I say that all the underage children in the tribe are to be sent to the land? Mason questioned angrily. Mr. Chief, since I've brought them here, I've already made preparations. If they die in battle, then it's their fate, Undine said indifferently, even if he valued Bader and Bao's lives more than anyone else. But that was all she could say now. Furthermore, I don't think it's a good thing to send the children to the clan's land. Flowers that have not experienced the wind and rain will not be able to support the clan's future, Undine said. Mason and the other old men were stunned for a moment before they fell silent. Since you are here, take a seat, Mason said softly. Hoo. Just then, the sound of a helicopter came from outside. Who's here? Undine was puzzled. No one is coming. It's that group of bastards' helicopters. Mason clenched his teeth and said, since today, they've been using helicopters to fly around our farm, trying to find out where the entrance is. Why don't they shoot down? Undine's eyes were filled with anger. They've been guarding against us, hovering a few hundred meters above the ground. How can we shoot them down? A few hundred meters above the ground, only a sniper rifle could hit them. But the turbulence from the helicopter could deflect the bullets. Besides, there were many good archers in the tribe who used bows and crossbows, but not many who used guns. Of course, they were not stubborn people. They knew the power of guns. It was just that their tribe was born with great talent. He was gifted in using bows and crossbows. Almost every child could learn how to use a bow and crossbow in a short time. Undine walked out of the house and looked at the helicopter flying high in the sky. Her face was filled with anger. Although Undine was a woman, she was famous for her temper in the tribe. But now, their nemesis was doing whatever it wanted above their heads. How could she tolerate it? Undine grabbed a machine gun out of nowhere and fired furiously at the sky. However, doing so would only allow him to vent a little. Wei and Qinzhao arrived at the headquarters of the association. Many people were gathered in the empty space. Klaus and the Lightning team, Gaia Little Grove, Elite, Ruan Faxabon, Moore Raz, Jalanash, Giselle, Moore, and Alyss. They were all going to explore the underground this time. Originally, Helis and Norma wanted to participate too, but their heat resistance was really not high enough. More accurately, their own magic made them very sensitive to high temperatures. They were even more sensitive than regular people. It wasn't just them. Many people in the association wanted to go underground too, but they couldn't reach the heat resistance standard, so they lost the chance. Both Qinzhao and West were firm on this matter. Those who couldn't reach the standard couldn't go. There was no room for negotiation. Underground exploration wasn't a joke. Even Qinzhao wasn't completely confident that he could bring them all back safely. There was a huge risk involved in this matter. After all, they weren't facing demons, but nature, the most violent force in the world. Are all the participants here? Qinzhao looked at everyone. Previously, he thought about giving everyone a uniform, but he still couldn't come up with a style that everyone was satisfied with. Unexpectedly, everyone's uniform was the same this time. I'll say the ugly words first, Qinzhao said. Even I'm not confident this time. So if you're scared, you can leave now. Once you go underground, it'll be impossible to leave. President, don't worry, Klaus said. No one will leave. What a joke. If anyone left now, it'd be a huge embarrassment. Which of the people who signed up to participate wasn't proud and arrogant? How could they accept something like getting cold feet? Actually, Qinzhao had made a lot of preparations. For example, he brought many resources. Then let's go. President, are we going to the Crypt Demon's Nest? No. Mirror Lake, Qinzhao said. Mirror Lake? Why are we going there? President, did you leave something behind? No, Qinzhao said. There's an underground river that leads deep underground. Everyone stared at Qinzhao, stunned. They didn't expect Mirror Lake to have an underground river. Chapter 1557. They arrived at Mirror Lake. Everyone felt a little sorry for the once beautiful villa that was now only a ruin of Mirror Lake. Of course, to Qinzhao, it was just a house. Even if it was destroyed 10 or 100 times, it would be fine as long as no one was hurt. The biggest value of Mirror Lake and the surrounding land wasn't the house. It was the natural scenery and some changes that had been made to the land, and the old turtle's internal alchemy that had sunk into the lake. Hey, are you really not going to consider buying accident insurance before we leave? Angelide's words drew everyone's angry glares. Elite, do you want to die? Elite, you better buy insurance first, or I won't be able to resist killing you. They all glared at Elite with murderous expressions. Okay, stop messing around. Chun Zhao said. The underground river tunnel is over there. Is it okay for you to swim there? Unleat sprinted. He stepped on the water surface and dashed hundreds of meters away. He stood where he was. Chun Zhao flew over directly. When he was above Unleat, he looked at him in confusion. Unleat, how did you step on the water? President, my feet vibrate at a high frequency to increase the contact area, Unleat said. Chun Zhao looked at Unleat and realized that his legs had been moving at high speed. Just then, the others arrived one after another. Of course, apart from Chun Zhao, only Gaia and Jalanash could fly. However, they didn't choose to fly over. Instead, they chose to swim. People always said that magicians had poor stamina, but that wasn't the case. In fact, this was not the case. Most mages had much better stamina than ordinary people. Non-strengthening type spiritualists couldn't completely convert magic into stamina or strengthen their bodies. However, magic could still improve their bodies. Spiritualists were also much more resistant to damage than regular people. A grenade could cause fatal damage to a regular person, but it might not be fatal to a spiritualist. As for Klaus and the lightning team, they wouldn't be tired even if they swam 10 kilometers. Everyone arrived at the designated spot. I'll go down first, Chun Zhao said. You guys follow. You need to hold your breath for at least 3 minutes. Prepare yourselves. If anyone can't do it, just say it. I have a portable oxygen inhaler. In the end, no one asked for a portable oxygen inhaler. Chun Zhao dove into the water and into the entrance of the underground river. Compared to the difficulty of going up last time, going down was much smoother. After all, they were going with the flow. Chun Zhao was the first to go down, mainly to clear the obstacles. After all, this was the entrance to an underground river. Who knew what kind of things were sucked in every day? It could be a stone or a tree branch. Some of them were obstructed by the terrain and rocks. If the others were to follow the current and hit an obstacle at such a high speed, they would most likely be directly injured. Chun Zhao quickly cleared the obstacles along the way. The others also slid down and followed closely behind him. In less than 3 minutes, Chun Zhao's body lightened and he fell uncontrollably. Hutong! Chun Zhao charged into the underground lake. Behind him, Gaia fell into the water. Then, the association members fell down one by one. When everyone emerged from the water, they were stunned by the scene in front of them. This place was not as dark as they had imagined before they set off, nor was it as scorching hot as they had imagined. At least within the range of this underground lake, everyone could still feel a trace of coolness. The surrounding rock walls seemed to contain some minerals. They were glowing weakly at the moment. However, the entire rock wall made the entire underground lake resplendent and gorgeous. There were some species in this lake that were completely different from those on land. Most of them had no vision, but they had extremely powerful senses of smell and perception. Last time, Chun Zhao had killed many of them. Now, there were no threatening creatures in the entire lake. From this, it could be seen that these species grew very slowly. They needed sufficient time to develop. It could be more than 10 years, or it could be decades, or even longer. Don't be careless, Chun Zhao reminded. There are some dangerous creatures in the water. In fact, everyone's area was within Chun Zhao's surveillance range. If there was really danger, Chun Zhao would be the first to react. While they'd been in the water, some larger creatures had indeed approached. However, they'd all been scared away by Gaia's dragon aura. Even if Gaia didn't transform, she still had her dragon aura. The more sensitive a creature was, the more sensitive they would be to this aura. Let's go to the shore first, Chun Zhao said. When they reached the shore, they realized that there were many skeletons here. What happened here? Last time I was here, I killed many creatures in this lake, Chun Zhao said as he poured out the water in the helmet. This helmet had been developed by Jalik. Although the main body of the helmet was made of metal, it was a metal that didn't conduct heat. It had very good heat insulation. The helmet's visor was dark glass. Apart from sniper rifles, normal guns couldn't penetrate it. Together with the dragon scale armor, it looked like a single soldier battle armor in sci-fi movies. Of course, this set of equipment was worn by Chun Zhao, Klaus, and a lightning team. Apart from magic resistance, the dragon scale armor also had strong resistance against attacks and was not easily damaged. Traditional spiritualists like Jalanash, on the other hand, were more casual in their outfits. They were wearing magic dragon scale armor, which would not increase the weight of their bodies, nor would it affect their spellcasting. Gaia didn't need any equipment at all. She could jump into the lava directly. Chun Zhao also put on the dragon scale armor because it looked really cool. The only thing that made Chun Zhao unhappy was that he'd wanted to add a cloak. In the end, Ruan Faxbin, Dongye Tianxi, and Jenkura all rejected Chun Zhao's suggestion. They said that a cloak wouldn't increase one's combat ability at all. Instead, it would be a burden, especially the long cloak that Chun Zhao had requested, one that dragged on the ground. It was superfluous. Chun Zhao was very unhappy. However, seeing that they designed the dragon scale armor so cool, Chun Zhao could reluctantly forgive them. Chun, where should we go now? Gaia turned to look at Chun Zhao. Chun Zhao froze. He looked at the tunnels on the wall nearby. They seemed different from what he remembered. Chapter 1558. Although the movement of the tectonic plates under the ground was very active, however, they should still be deep within the Earth's crust. The thickness of the Earth's crust was less than 20 kilometers, but it was already very thick for humans. Of course, there were also places to eat. Chun Zhao wasn't sure if they were at the boundary between the thin layers of the Earth's crust. If it was at the boundary of the thin crust, then the crustal activity here would be very active. It was like a flowing water source. Perhaps in a day, it would change the landscape. Chun Zhao remembered that he had discovered a lava pool in this area last time. Chun Zhao became more and more suspicious. Could this be an active continent? If that was the case, perhaps a small earthquake would bring about a disaster. Of course, since they were here to explore, everyone must be mentally prepared. Just pick one. This one, Chun Zhao said casually. Chun Zhao lifted his foot and was about to walk into the chosen tunnel when Gaia said, "I'll walk in front." "Oh, then you take the lead." They were here for the trial anyway. If Chun Zhao took the lead, it would be meaningless. But since Chun Zhao didn't want to take the lead, he would take the tail. Gaia led the way, while Chun Zhao protected the back. But Gaia had just walked into the chosen tunnel. Suddenly, something red flashed by. Before Gaia could react, he was sent flying. It was a gigantic arachne. Chun Zhao was already quite familiar with the arachne. This arachne's main body was only 4 to 5 meters long, but its limbs were over 25 meters long. There was also a group of ordinary arachne following behind this big arachne. Prepare for battle. Gaia stood up. She looked energetic and uninjured. Chun Zhao still stood at the back, not planning to attack. "These spider demons are great food," Chun Zhao reminded. "Their flesh contains a substance that can strengthen magic and body. I call this substance earth essence. Normal earth essence is white. If the content is higher, it'll be dark yellow or bright yellow. The best is gold. Don't waste it." Ruan Faxi was beside Chun Zhao. He didn't attack either. In fact, he took this opportunity to come here to look for some connecting materials that could not be found on the surface. Hearing Chun Zhao's words, Ruan's interest was piqued. No matter how intense the battle was, Ruan Faxi would pick up a severed arachne limb and dig out a piece of tender flesh. He sniffed and immediately smelled the aroma of crab meat. But it was even more fragrant. Ruan Faxbin licked it again. Although it hadn't been cooked, it was already in the palate. Ordinary arachne possessed very little earth essence. It was very rare. Ruan Faxi tried several times and used various alchemy techniques, but he couldn't extract it. "Give it to me. I'll teach you how to extract it." Chun Zhao was an expert in this. After all, he was the first person in the association to know and come into contact with the essence of the earth. Chun Zhao sent his immortal power into the spider's broken limb, destroying its structure. Then he took it back. The earth essence in the arachne's flesh came out along with it. Chun Zhao had used magic power before, but now it was immortal power. However, the principle didn't change, and neither did the results. It was just that there was too little earth essence in a severed limb like this. It might not even be 1 gram. Chun Zhao could probably only extract about 5 grams of earth essence from an entire arachne. Gaia, Klaus, and the lightning team will handle the battle at the front, Chun Zhao called. Everyone else, come over and extract the earth essence together. But we have to separate the quality of the earth essence. Don't let low-level earth essence mix with high-level earth essence. It'll affect the quality. Leader, we found it. We found the entrance. Lila Gavich was overjoyed. Everyone move out. Those who are underage shouldn't come. On this point, Lila Gavich and Mesco Pryor were surprisingly in agreement. They looked like big capitalists on the surface, but they actually had their own races behind them. Even if it concerned the future of the two races, he didn't want to bet on the future. No matter which race it was, children were the hope of the future. Lila Gavich appeared to be carefree and even looked like a mafia boss, but that was just his disguise. The future of the Dark Elves depends on this operation. Elves had appeared in many European mythologies. According to legends, elves were handsome, free, elegant, and had long lives. They were a race that lived with nature and were good at using bows and arrows. In these legends, there was always a name that wasn't so beautiful: Dark Elves. If elves were a collection of all good things, then Dark Elves were a collection of all evil. Dark Elves were always accompanied by derogatory terms like evil, darkness, and depravity. However, this wasn't the case. The only difference between Dark Elves and White Elves was their race. It was like the difference in skin color among humans. Of course, racial discrimination had always existed among the elves. The war between the White Elves and Dark Elves had lasted for 3,000 years. Since ancient times, the two races had been incompatible like fire and water. There had been a short period of peace, but not long after, war would break out again. In fact, elves didn't just consist of Dark Elves and White Elves. There were also some elves from other branches. For example, there were Forest Elves, Sea Elves, and Wilderness Elves. However, these three were already quite rare. Even if they were probably hidden in human society. Even the mainstream Dark Elves and White Elves didn't have any news about them. Lila Gavich brought his people to the outskirts of Daipa Farm. However, before they could step into the farm, the owner stopped them. Mesco Pool couldn't hide his anger as he saw Lila Gavich get out of the car. Bastard, what are you doing at my farm? Lila Gavich's eyes flashed with anger at Mesco Pool's insulting words. Even though White Elves had called Dark Elves this way for thousands of years, every time Lila Gavich heard it, he would still be furious. However, Lila Gavich remained calm and had a smile on her face. Of course I'm here to play. What? Am I not welcome? Please remember this book's domain name. Mobile version. Chapter 1559. Here to play? He brought the entire Dark Elf tribe here to play? Mosco glanced at the fleet of over 50 black MPVs behind Lila Gavich. Each car could carry at least 8 people. In other words, there were over 400 people in these 50 cars. Lila Gavich had really brought his entire tribe. The tribesmen behind Mosco had already surrounded him. Everyone was ready for battle. Some no longer concealed their weapons. Regardless of whether it was a crossbow or a gun, both were already in his hands. But no one fired, because they knew that once they started fighting, it would be time for the war to start. Everyone was waiting for Mosco's orders. You brought so many people here to play? My farm doesn't welcome you. Lila Gavich took a deep puff of his cigar and spat it on Mosco's face. That isn't up to you. Just then, in another direction of the farm, there was a sudden loud noise, followed by a ball of fire rising into the sky. Mosco's expression changed drastically. He looked at Lila Gavich. You? Oh no, you fell for it. Mosco was furious. Attack! Lila Gavich suddenly moved and retreated. Mosco's expression was uncertain. He wanted to do it himself, but he had to bring people to reinforce the other side of the farm. It had to be said that Lila Gavich had played his hand beautifully. He appeared personally and had his men drive over 10 cars to block the entrance of the farm. This made Mosco think that Lila Gavich was going to attack the farm from the front. In fact, the 50 or so cars were empty. Each car only had one driver. Leave 100 people behind. The rest, follow me, Moscow Pearl said. Moscow led his men to reinforce the other side of the farm. But when they arrived, they found that the battle was already over. There were over 10 corpses on the ground. They were all dark elf corpses. What happened? Did they retreat? Moscow asked in shock. Patriarch, that's all they came. We've already annihilated all of them. Moscow's expression changed again. Damn it, he fell for it again. That old fox. Quick, send reinforcements to the front. Mason exclaimed. There were 100 clansmen left in front, and if the true main force of the Dark Elves was in front, then his clansmen would suffer disastrous losses. At this moment, Undine said, Chief, what if this is another trap? Mason was stunned for a moment, but he quickly reacted. What if this place was still an illusion? If the Dark Elves were to charge in this direction, it would be troublesome. No, he couldn't continue like this. If this went on, he and his clansmen would be too passive. Everyone, gather at the big house. Macy said, actually, the best way was not to take the initiative to intercept. The farm was so big, with an area of more than 10 square kilometers. If they were to block the leaks everywhere, they would be exhausted. With the cunning of that old fox, Lila Gavich, it was only a matter of time before he killed them with this trick. But in fact, this was a mistake that Moscow Priest had made. In fact, they were the defending side, so they didn't need to rush around. They could wait at ease and gather all their forces. They wouldn't be tricked by Lila Gavich. At this moment, at the front of the farm, after Mason left with his men, Lila Gavich also launched an attack. The people in the 50 vehicles all came down. He had purposely created an illusion to make Moscow think that all the cars were empty. In fact, it was just a diversion tactic. His real goal was to take out the white elves in front of him. But at this moment, a loud horn sounded from the center of the farm. The white elves who were fighting fiercely with the dark elves at the front heard the horn and started to retreat. Lila Gavich was a little disappointed, but he couldn't do anything if the white elves wanted to retreat. Chief, what do we do now? How many did we lose? Including the 15 that pretended to attack from the back and a crossfire just now, 28 died. What about them? They left around 40 bodies. That's a big loss, Lila Gavich said with a pained expression. Although they had used a trick this time to let the Dark Elves gain a little advantage, they also lost people. However, they had also lost people, so it was hard to say who had taken advantage of the situation. Spread out and enter, Lila Gavich ordered. Chief, aren't we going in together? One of his men asked. Idiot, there are countless mines buried along the road. Going in head-on is suicide. They probably have heavy weapons, Lila Gavich said. Actually, there was another advantage of spreading out. They could avoid a war of attrition. Both the Dark Elves and the White Elves didn't want to fight a war of attrition. Lila Gavich and his men weren't here to fight to the death with the White Elves. They were here to enter the entrance to the crypt. The farm was filled with sorghum and corn. It was big enough to hide a person. The Dark Elves started to spread out to the fields and moved towards the entrance of the crypt. There were also White Elves hiding in the fields. Soon, a fight broke out in the fields. Lila Gavich walked towards the center of the farm from the main road. Thud! Lila Gavich suddenly felt like he had stepped on something. His reaction was extremely fast. It wasn't the reaction of a fat man at all. Lila Gavich dodged to the side. An explosion instantly engulfed him. But when the flames of the explosion dissipated, Lila Gavich continued forward unscathed. Boom, boom, boom. Who knew how many mines he'd stepped on along the way? Lila Gavich wasn't hurt at all. That bastard Moscow Prowl. How many mines did he plant here? Lila Gavich cursed to himself. When this war is over, this farm will probably be destroyed. After all, there were hundreds of mines buried in the farm. If his men or children stepped on them, they would be in deep trouble. When he reached the end of the road, Moscow Prior stood in front of Lila Gavich. Bastard, where are you going? Lila Gavich's face twitched. He took a deep puff from his cigar. What a hateful bastard. Can't you let me pass more easily? Your body can pass. Chapter 1560. With a flick of his right hand, Mescal shot a dagger at Lila Gavich. Asterisk sway, asterisk Meng, asterisk Xiao, Yin, asterisk Kamlala took a step back, but he was too slow. The end of the cigar in his mouth had been cut off. Lila Gavik looked even more displeased. He increased his strength and flicked his finger. Maskell shot out another dagger and cut off another half of the cigar in the air. The dagger didn't change its direction. It still shot at Lila Gavik. The moment it was about to hit Lila Gavik, Lilagovich, on the other hand, seemed to be transparent. The dagger passed through his head unscathed. It wasn't the first time Maskell and Lila Gavik had fought. He knew Lila Gavik's ability very well. Shadow. That was the ability of the Dark Elves. But it wasn't innate. Only the High Dark Elves could awaken it. Lila Gavik looked like a meatball. In fact, he was a High Dark Elf. The High Dark Elves could freely switch between reality and shadow. Be it physical or magical attacks, he could easily dodge them. Of course, this trick wasn't invincible. The High Dark Elves couldn't hide in the shadow forever. With Lila Gavik's current strength, he could hide in the shadow for 3 seconds. But for Lila Gavik, 3 seconds was enough to change the situation. Maskell shot 3 daggers in a row. This time, Lila Gavik had to hide. It was as if Mace Cole had countless daggers on him. No one knew where he hid the daggers, but he kept shooting them at Lila Gavik. Suddenly, Lila Gavik lifted his clothes. Maskell looked up. He saw that Lila Gavik's clothes were full of grenades. Maskell's expression changed, and he quickly retreated. But at this time, Lila Gavik had already taken off his coat and thrown it at Maskell. Mace Keller moved even faster. He pointed at the jacket that was full of grenades. A white light shot out from Maskell's finger and instantly enveloped the coat. Under Maskell's control, the coat suddenly rose into the air. Bang! It wasn't the sound of grenades exploding. Those weren't grenades at all, but smoke bombs. Oh no, Mason Koppel groaned inwardly. He had been tricked again. That damned old fox. The smoke bomb instantly enveloped the area. Lila Garovic laughed proudly. But at this time, Maskell could no longer see Leelage. Ouch! Leelage suddenly cried out in pain and reached out his hand. Lilagiwix was surprised to find it was a little girl. Then a roar came from a fog. Let go about air. Lila Gagewitch grabbed at the thick fog with his other hand, and Bader was also caught in his hand. This is an adult's game. Kids get lost. Although Lila Gagewitch and the White Elves were mortal enemies. However, he still had a moral bottom line in his heart. Lila Gajevic threw the 2 kids out of the thick fog. Lilajevic had no intention of fighting. His real goal was not to fight to the death with the White Elves. He planned to enter the entrance of the crypt. These smoke bombs were not ordinary smoke bombs, but special magic smoke bombs. These magic smoke bombs could quickly spread around in a very short time. Soon, half of the farm was shrouded in the thick fog released by the smoke bombs, with the center of the farm as the origin point. Lilajevic walked in the direction of the entrance of the crypt. At this time, Maskell could not find Lilajevic at all. He could not even tell where he was going. Lilajevic was quite pleased with himself. This time, he had schemed against Maskell and played him around. It was a rare victory. But at this time, a chill approached. Lilajevic stopped in his tracks and caught an arrow between his fingers. Lilajevic saw Bao Air's figure flash in the thick smoke. At this moment, Bader launched another sneak attack. However, he was facing Lilajevic, a High Dark Elf. Even if he didn't use the shadow element, he had absolute power under his bloated appearance. Lilajevic clenched his left hand, and Bader's fist was caught by him. Little guy, if you don't get lost, I won't go easy on you. However, Bader responded with a kick to Lilajevic's crotch. Damn, fatty. Do you think I'm afraid of you? Lilajevic suddenly pulled Bader. Bader screamed as an arrow hit him in the shoulder. Bao Air, you shot me. Ah, sorry. Bao Air apologized in the thick smoke. Lilajevic snickered. These 2 little fellows posed no threat to him at all. However, the game ended here. Lilajevic threw Bader aside and continued to walk toward the entrance of the crypt. Soon, Lilajevic found the entrance. Uff. Lilajevic laughed strangely again. Maskell had planted many mines at the entrance. However, this mine was no threat to him. Suddenly, Lilojevic frowned as Bader attacked again. However, he did not know that there were a large number of mines buried here. Lilojevic hesitated for a moment, then pulled Bader over and threw him into the entrance of the crypt. How could that idiot Maskell let two miners participate in this war? Ah, you killed Bader. I'll kill you. Bauer, who was hiding nearby, saw that Bader was thrown into the entrance of the crypt. She immediately shouted and rushed toward Lilojevic. At the same time, she shot 3 arrows in a row, but they did not hit Lilojevic. She had stepped on a mine herself. Lilojevic gritted his teeth. Fuck, I was an intruder, but now I've become a babysitter. That idiot. Lilojevic used the same trick again and threw Bauer into the entrance of the crypt. At this time, the thick smoke began to dissipate. Lilojevic took out a black horn and blew it. Whoa! Maskell's expression changed. This was the signal for the Dark Elves to retreat. Had Lilojevic found the entrance? Maskell rushed to the entrance and saw Lilojevic standing there. Are you here to see me off, Maskell? Lilojevic grinned at Maskell. Chapter 1561. Mosko's face darkened. He could no longer stop Lilojevic now. Lilojevic was just too cunning. He had thought that Lilojevic would fight him head-on, but it turned out that Lilojevic had no intention of doing so. He had been trying to avoid an all-out war. Now, Lilojevic had 1 foot in the entrance, but at this moment, a frost arrow shot over. Lilojevic dodged it with a shadow, but the frost arrow exploded in an instant. The cold air it released turned into an ice wall, blocking the entrance. At that moment, Mosko Pool and Lilojevic's expressions became very interesting. Mosko had thought that he had lost. Lilojevic had thought that he had won too, but the result had been reversed. The entrance was sealed in ice. Most importantly, Lilojevic had no choice but to retreat. This was the center of the farm. The Dark Elves had already retreated after hearing Lilojevic's horn. Now, there were only White Elves around. Seeing Undine walk out, Lilojevic's expression became even more interesting. Hi, Undine. I'm so happy to see you. Fatty, how do you want to die? Undine asked coldly. If it was just Mosko and Undine, Lilojevic would not be afraid. Even if he could not win, he could still escape. But now, he definitely did not have to face just Mosko and Undine. When are you going to divorce that useless man? Lilojevic asked with a shy face. You're still talking nonsense when you're about to die. I'm babbling nonsense? I know you've been living apart for a year. Lilojevic smiled. Oh, I saw your 2 kids just now. They're called Bauer and Bader, right? Where are they now? I accidentally threw them into the entrance of the crypt. By the way, don't worry, I left a mark on them. Now, it was Undine and Mosko's turn to change. You damn fat pig. Undine roared angrily. What an affectionate title. Lilojevic seemed to enjoy the affectionate title. Undine, don't open the ice seal. Mason looked at Undine. Lilojevic smiled, but said nothing. Mason became even more anxious when he saw Undine's hesitation. Undine, do you want our plan to fail? And I've told you before, don't bring children to the battlefield. Mason exclaimed excitedly. Lilojevic knew her old lover too well. The more impatient Mason was, the more Undine would run in the opposite direction. Undine looked at Lilojevic and said coldly, They are your children. If they die in there, I'll make sure you die a horrible death. Lilojevic's expression became even more interesting. He opened his mouth for a long time, but no sound came out. After saying that, Undine pointed her finger, and the ice wall instantly cracked before collapsing. Instead, Lilojevic jumped into the entrance to the crypt. Lilojevic kept slipping down, her mind a mess. No wonder they could find me in the thick smoke, Lilojevic muttered to himself. They have dark elf blood. Outside the entrance, Mason glared at Undine angrily. Before he could speak, Undine sprinted and jumped into the crypt. Mason's expression changed. After a moment of hesitation, he still jumped in. Since Lilojevic had already entered the crypt, he couldn't fall behind. The battle ended. Is anyone hurt? Raz, Chun Zhao said. You're in charge of checking them. If they're injured, treat them. It was a good battle. They'd killed hundreds of spider demons, including a big one. There was a big bottle of the most common earth essence, about 2 liters. There was a small bottle of the more advanced earth essence, less than 100 grams. There was also a small bottle of the best golden earth essence, about the same amount as the advanced ones. The main thing was that the big spider was more than the normal ones, and the quality was high too. Everyone had worked together to kill the big spider, but Gaia's contribution was the most. No one could deny this. However, this battle definitely wouldn't be easy. This was only the first battle, but it had already made everyone feel pressured. They continued going deeper. Most of the time, they needed a light source to explore the way in the tunnel. However, they didn't need to bring their own light source. Alice, Jalanash, and Ruan Faxbin all had a spell that could create a stable light source. Even more, Raz knew this little spell. Suddenly, the ground shook. A crack appeared under everyone's feet. Oh no! Chun Zhao suddenly sped up and grabbed Ruan Faxbin, who was hanging in the air. Ruan Faxbin was also frightened at this moment. This was because beneath his feet was a pool of magma. The sudden earthquake had torn the passageway apart, exposing the magma river below. Thankfully, the crack wasn't big. They could jump over it. However, this earthquake still served as a reminder to everyone. The danger they faced wasn't just from the underground creatures. There was also the power of the earth. This was the biggest threat. Even Chun Zhao didn't dare to say that he could protect them completely. Chun Zhao still walked at the back. This was a good position. He could observe everyone in front. But the second earthquake came again. It was even stronger than the first. Chun Zhao saw that the rock layer above the tunnel seemed to be falling. Fuck! Without thinking, Chun Zhao charged forward. He pushed up with his arms and lifted the huge rock layer up. However, the force of the fall was far beyond his imagination. No! 10,000 techniques returned to 1. Chun Zhao immediately used his ultimate move. Instantly, Chun Zhao's strength increased several times. Chun! Gaia looked back. Go over. Chun Zhao still felt the pressure. The weight of the rocks connected to it was probably 1,000,000 tons. Right now, Chun Zhao was barely hanging on. He was relying on the friction between the rocks and the ground to barely hold on. Hurry! I can't hold on anymore. Chun Zhao roared. Chun Zhao's veins were bulging. He didn't know how long it had been since he'd been so tired. Of course, as long as they all went over, Chun Zhao could let go. No one dared to delay. They all ran forward with all their might. The more they dawdled, the more pressure Chun Zhao felt. Please remember this book's domain name, 9 Heavens Divine Emperor Mobile Version. Chapter 1562. Chun Zhao wasn't the first to collapse. It was the ground under Chun Zhao's feet. A huge force poured into the ground that Chun Zhao's feet were supporting him. The ground began to crack and then completely collapsed. On top of that, there was a huge pressure on Chun Zhao's head. In an instant, Chun Zhao was pressed down. He couldn't leave even if he wanted to. Fortunately, the toughness of his body wasn't enough to crush Chun Zhao. Chun Zhao's body fell into the lava. At the same time, there were rocks as big as small mountains above him. Thankfully, the weight of the rock wasn't completely on Chun Zhao. After falling into the lava, the immortal power in his body became even more active and covered his body. Chun Zhao started destroying the rocks on his body. After more than 10 minutes of effort, Chun Zhao finally crawled out from under the rock. The dragon scale armor on his body was still intact, and his helmet was not damaged. Chun Zhao poured the lava out of the armor. Chun Zhao looked around. There was a river of lava around him. Chun Zhao flew above the lava river and moved along it. Some places were blocked by the terrain, so Chun Zhao had to jump into the lava river again and walk through it. But overall, the road was quite spacious. Chun Zhao arrived at the lava lake. It was the one where he had met the phoenix. Even though he was flying above the lava lake, he could still feel the scorching heat waves. But now, even if lava was smeared on his face, it wouldn't hurt him at all. Not to mention that it was just a heat wave. However, if he's soaked in lava, it would still consume a lot of immortal energy. Therefore, Chun Zhao didn't want to stay in the lava forever. Chun Zhao couldn't find any traces of the association members. He could only stroll around by himself. As for their current situation, Chun Zhao wasn't sure. Chun Zhao saw some caves around the lava lake. Some of the caves were spewing lava. Chun Zhao arrived at the entrance of one of the caves. He sensed that there were signs of life in the depths of the cave. It didn't matter if he was a member of the association or a monster from the underground. Chun Zhao's senses weren't as clear as the small world. However, this perception was similar to superhuman hearing. The immortal power greatly increased his bodily functions. From physical resistance to all kinds of resistances to physical strength, vision, hearing, and reaction time were all improved. Chun Zhao really suspected that if he continued to evolve, he would become like Superman in the movies. In fact, many of Chun Zhao's abilities were almost superhuman. For example, if he used all things return to one, his strength could reach 150,000 tons. If he used his full strength, he could even push the largest ship in the world. After walking for a few minutes, he suddenly heard footsteps in front of him. Chun Zhao immediately walked forward. Chun Zhao thought it was someone from the association. However, he didn't expect them to not be from the association. It was a girl, Bao, the daughter of the Porsche store owner. Chun Zhao was stunned. Bao also stared at the person who had suddenly appeared. This person wearing strange equipment. Because he was wearing a helmet, Bao didn't recognize him. While Bao was sizing him up, he was also sizing her up. The temperature here was at least 200 to 300 degrees. However, Bao seemed to be very used to the temperature here. There was a red mark on her forehead, and there were also some red lines on her exposed skin. Bao was holding a bough made from the branches of a mistletoe tree. He stared at Chun Zhao warily. "Who are you? Why are you here?" "I should be asking you that," Chun Zhao said. "Who are you? Why can you appear here without wearing a protective suit?" "A spiritualist?" She didn't seem to have any magical aura. Bao didn't answer Chun Zhao's question either. Instead, she raised her bow, pulled back the string, and knocked an arrow at Chun Zhao. "Tell me, who are you?" Suddenly, Bao's bowstring loosened without any warning. Chun Zhao was stunned. This girl actually dared to attack him, but he soon realized that Bao's arrow was off by a lot. The arrow flew over Chun Zhao's head. When Chun Zhao turned around, he saw that it was a lizard covered in flames. The lizard was about 3 meters long. Its body was red with black spots. It looked like Obito's, but it was much smaller. At the moment, Obito's was already 9 meters long in his normal state. If he turned into a fire dragon, he would be around 12 meters long. Chun Zhao didn't think that he wouldn't notice the lizard even with his strong senses. "I saved your life. Can you tell me who you are now?" Did that count as saving his life? Chun Zhao was speechless. Nevertheless, he still opened the visor of his helmet. "Hey, little girl, we meet again." "It's you." Seeing Chun Zhao's face, Bao immediately raised her bow. "Why are you here? Are you with the Dark Elves too?" "Dark Elves? What the hell? Were they the night elves in the city?" "I'm a researcher." "Researcher?" Bao tilted her head and looked at Chun Zhao. "What do you study?" "Geology." No wonder. Bao's knowledge seemed to make her think that it was reasonable for a researcher to appear here. She didn't seem to notice Chun Zhao's armor. It was very abnormal. "What's with your equipment?" "Heat-resistant suit," Chun Zhao said. "Why aren't you afraid of high temperatures?" "Why should I tell you?" Bao said in annoyance. "You better leave quickly. It's very dangerous here." "I'm not afraid of danger," Chun Zhao said calmly. "Scram. I won't protect you anymore." Bao pretended to be fierce. Unfortunately, this didn't scare Chun Zhao. "What if I don't leave?" Chun Zhao asked nonchalantly. Bao raised her bow again and pointed at him. "Then I'll kill you. Are you scared?" "Yes." "Then scram." "I heard that this place is closer to hell. Will I go to hell faster after I die?" Bao glanced at Chun Zhao. Thinking that he was crazy, she turned and left. On the other hand, Chun Zhao shamelessly followed behind her. Bao took a few steps and turned around, dissatisfied. "Why are you following me? Is this your home?" "What did you say?" Bao raised her bow again. Chun Zhao immediately raised his hands. "I said that I need to go this way to leave. You can't leave the direction you came from." There's a lava lake there. Then why did you come from there? Because I came here first. I saw that it was a dead end, so I turned back. Chapter 1563. Bao didn't believe him. She walked in the direction Chen Zhao had come from for a few minutes and indeed saw a huge lava lake. No matter how much she didn't believe him, she could only believe him. After all, even if she possessed a special bloodline, it was impossible for her to cross the magma lake. Bao and Bader's bloodline was very special. They were twins. They also had white elf and dark elf bloodlines. Of course, this also proved that white elves and dark elves were actually the same race. How do humans differentiate between species? Those that could mate and reproduce were the same species. For example, yellow, white, and black people could reproduce together and give birth to the next generation. So, no matter their skin color, they were actually the same species. Humans, monkeys, and chimpanzees couldn't reproduce. They were primates, but they weren't the same species. No matter how much white elves and dark elves looked down on each other and hated each other, it couldn't change this fact. Bao and Bader's mother, Undine, had the ice bloodline, but they'd both awakened the fire bloodline. In this hot environment, they wouldn't be hurt. Instead, they'd become stronger and stronger. So Bao was still wary of Chen Zhao. But it wasn't because she was afraid of him. It was because this was her home turf. Chen Zhao poked the red pattern on Bao's arm with his finger. The red pattern looked quite beautiful. This was probably why Bao wasn't afraid of the heat. "Don't touch me," Bao said fiercely. "I'll kill you." But no matter how she pretended to be fierce, it was hard to scare people. "Why did you come here?" Chen Zhao asked curiously. "None of your business." Bao glared at him. "Tell me about elves, and what's with the dark elves you mentioned just now?" "You don't need to know." Bao rejected his question. Just then, 3 fire lizards appeared before them. One of them was bigger than the other two. It was about 8 meters long and had a muscular body. The fire lizard made Chen Zhao suspect that it might be related to the dragons. But they didn't have horns, and Chen Zhao didn't sense any dragon aura from them. Bao was not afraid at all. "You'd better stay away. Otherwise, I won't be able to protect you later." "No, I won't protect you at all." Bao corrected herself. "Your life and death have nothing to do with me anyway." "Who said it doesn't matter? Think about it. I'm a rich man, and I'm a big customer of your father's Porsche store. As long as I'm alive, I can spend more in your father's store. Your father earns more money, and then you can have more pocket money. Am I right?" Bao was stunned for a moment. She seemed to be seriously considering this question. However, before she could wrap her head around it, the 3 fire lizards had already charged over. Bao leaped high into the air. Her jump was at least 4 meters high. Her toes bounced off the rock wall and landed behind the salamander. Then he pulled the bowstring in his hand to the fullest and released it. It accurately hit the head of a fire lizard. The piercing power of this arrow was extremely strong. Not only did it pierce through the fire salamander's head from behind, but it also stabbed into the rocks on the ground. The largest fire lizard charged straight at Chen Zhao. As soon as Chen Zhao released his aura, the biggest salamander immediately froze. Just then, Bao's help arrived. "Watch out!" Bao yelled. She leaped onto the fire lizard's back, pulled out a dagger from her waist, and stabbed it heavily into the fire lizard's neck. The fire lizard struggled wildly, but Bao was extremely agile. The moment she succeeded, she jumped to the side and shot 2 more arrows, both hitting the 3rd fire lizard. In less than 2 minutes, she had killed all 3 fire lizards. The entire process was smooth and pleasing to the eye. Chen Zhao stepped over the fire lizard's corpse and pulled on Bao's clothes. Her clothes were very loose, and she had a belt made of the same material around her waist. If it were normal clothes, they would probably spontaneously combust in such a hot environment. However, Bao's clothes were still perfectly fine in such a high temperature. "What material are you made of? It's so hot." Bao slapped Chen Zhao's hand away in disgust. "Why are you like this? Don't touch it." Chen Zhao wanted to tear off a piece and study it. However, the material was much tougher than he'd imagined. If Chen Zhao tore it off forcefully, Bauer's clothes would probably be torn off. If you touch me again, I won't go easy on you. Bauer looked at Chun Zhao as if he was a pervert. Bauer didn't leave immediately. Instead, she started cutting off a piece of fire lizard meat. Can this be eaten? Yes, but its meat is poisonous. Normal people will be poisoned if they eat it. Of course, it's not fatal. Bauer glanced at Chun Zhao. But you don't have a choice now. If you don't want to die here, you better bring some. Chun Zhao pursed his lips. It's poisonous? Forget it then. Chun Zhao didn't reject the meat of magical creatures. However, he'd always been stubborn. Chun Zhao wouldn't eat it even if it was slightly poisonous. Suddenly, Bauer raised her bow and pointed at the tunnel ahead. Who is it? Come out. Bader jumped out from the tunnel ahead. Bauer, it's you. How come you're here too? Bader didn't expect to see Bauer here. Bader, you made it easy for me to find you. Then Bader looked at Chun Zhao. Bauer, who is he? The man who bought a car from Dad's shop last time, Bauer said. Him? How come he's here? He's a geologist. He came here for research and happened to run into him. Bauer, you're kidding, right? I've never heard of a geologist going into the Great Abyss. Bader was only an hour older than Bauer, but he was smarter than her. At least he could tell what was normal and what wasn't. Bader looked at Chun Zhao warily. Who exactly are you? Bauer glanced at Chun Zhao and said, I knew something was wrong with him. He wasn't even afraid of the fire lizard. Looks like I was right. Chun Zhao pursed his lips. This girl really knew how to say things after the fact. Fine, Chun Zhao said in a low voice, pretending to be mysterious. Actually, I'm an underground human. My ancestors and I have always lived underground. This is our home. We occasionally go to the surface and hide among humans. Bauer and Bader were both dazed. Underground humans? Do underground humans really exist in sci-fi? Is there an underground world? That you're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.